not my problem. It's not my problem. When I feel heavy metal, and I'm pissed and I'm Zeno. When I lie and I'm missing all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please stop me shout.
All right, welcome to, this is what, Thursday, Derek?
Thursday
on the Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Schuman. I'm here with Coach D as always, and we have a phenomenal guest today, truly a legend in New Jersey coaching, Coach Parlavecchio. And just to kind of give a background, Coach, welcome to the show. It's great to have you,
guys. Thank you. My pleasure.
Truly a legend. Just briefly starting to enjoy retirement a little bit, but
just doing stuff like this. It's fun.
Yes, exactly. Now you get to have a little bit of fun.
At 10 in the morning, perfect.
Exactly right. It's great to have Coach on. He's truly a legend. From a playing standpoint, he was a standout at Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey as a high school athlete. Was a superstar in college, played at the NFL level for, I think, 3 years you were in the NFL, right? 3 or 4 years in the NFL. Was a standout there. Coached in the NFL at different times in his career, a couple times. Coached in college 1 year as well, and had some of the most amazing runs. He was a guy that, as I remember him, that would come in, take over a program, and next thing you know, within a short time period would be in the state championship. So, he did that at some places. Some of them were old, I would say old traditional powers that had at the time fallen off, right?
Yeah.
So you did that at Elizabeth. You did it at Irvington.
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield PV. Like those are places really where they had some great traditions, had fallen on some tougher times, came in. I remember when you won at Elizabeth, that was just an unbelievable team that you had.
Incredible bunch of kids. They were great kids.
Really, really unbelievable.
Just needed some direction. That's all.
That's it. And I think that's what we're really going to dive into, because you've done that multiple times. It's a foundation that you've been able to build and instill in each one of your teams, no matter where you were. And I always say that's like, obviously there's coaches that have been at like one place for a bazillion years, and they're obviously, they're there for a long time. They probably had success, but I think, it's very difficult to go to a few different places and to be able to build it up and take over some programs that, needed a little bit of resuscitation and turn them into powerhouses again. And you did that multiple times. I also love the diversity of your career, like the willingness from time to time to dive into different things, like to step away, to go to the NFL. Obviously, you had some great relationships. I think you were at Tennessee, right, with Munchak?
Yep. 3 years,
Yep. And in college for a brief time period. And then, but obviously high school was where you continued to cut your teeth for all those years. So it's great. It's great to have you on. We have so many modern, I would say, because we have such a wide variety of guests. And one of the things, Derek does a great job at this, by the way, like really, really does a great job. So we have like the modern new way of doing this, and then we have some of the old school's ways of doing things, and we run the full gamut. Tons of
this goes to old school.
Yeah.
This goes double old school.
Yes, absolutely.
6 next week.
No doubt about it. But you see, I think what's great about it, and I'm going to let you tell your journey, because I can't do it justice, but it's, yes, you're old school, but you move throughout the years and adjusted to what you needed to adjust to, maintaining obviously what your values were as a coach, but adjusting to, how times adjust over time, right? Like kids always want to be coached. I think that never changes. but obviously things that they're into might change, over the years, and motivations and those kind of things, and what figuring out what triggers you got to be able, and buttons you got to be able to push might change slightly, but they always want to be coached. And when you get a coach like yourself that comes in and gives them that foundation, they're like, oh, okay, this I got to do this, and this, and now I have a chance to be successful. So having said that, I want to let you dive in, tell us your journey, and from your words.
Well, it's Coach, it's a long journey. I mean, sometimes I sit back and I don't believe all the places or things that, where I've been. And it's been a long journey, but it's been a pleasurable journey in the sense that I've had the ability throughout my years to affect a lot of different people, college kids, professional athletes, and more importantly, high school kids. And the one thing you were saying, how the modern game and this, but the one beautiful thing about the game of football, the essence of it has never changed. It's about who blocks and tackles the best, who plays the game with passion, and how you prepare yourself both during the season and after the season for a season that makes the difference. So those are the things that made I got lucky, because the game is still the game. You could do all your fancy 5-wide stuff you want. If I run a simple isolation play and I'm beating the hell out of your linebacker, I win. And that's the way the game has always been. So maybe I was a little stuck in my ways. But my journey, being said, is a simple one. As a player, I played for Seton Hall Prep, which was under the great Tony Verducci, who arguably was one of the greatest high school coaches in the history of New Jersey high school football. Absolutely. We have an incredible statistic. A lot of young coaches today, they might get 100 wins. And, sometimes I see these records on guys. And is it really a record of success or the fact you've been there for 50 years? Right. I don't know. I don't get involved in that. To me, success is measured by, are your kids viable and productive people in society when the game is over? But that being said, as a player, I played for what I consider the greatest defensive football team in the history of the state of New Jersey. We gave up 6 points in 11 games. And the only reason that we gave up 6 to Bergen Catholic was a state title game. I fell down. I had a kid dead in the hole, and I fell down. I take full responsibility for it, or else they get stopped there too. But that being said, we won 2 state titles when I was at Seton Hall Prep. The team was legendary. And what was funny about it, Coach? It was that era. It was my Seton Hall teams that started to change the trend in high school football. People don't realize
that's
back in the 70s, if you lost to a parochial, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right.
Back then, the Bloomfields, the Montclairs, all the powers around the Mattawa, all of whether North Jersey, South Jersey, it was criminal to lose to a parochial back in those days. And what happened was the Seton Hall teams under Tony Verducci and the Bergen Catholic teams under Tony Karsich all of a sudden started beating everybody. We started winning football games. And the next thing you know, starting with my teams in my junior and senior year, Seton Hall puts together a 42-game winning streak. And, we win 2 state titles. We win the Star Ledger Trophy. And that's when the parochials started to change the momentum. They started becoming the power. The Don Boscos started coming on, Bergen Catholic. And then all of a sudden, it swung from where the publics were the power to those Seton Hall, Bergen Catholic, Bosco teams. The parochials started becoming the power. So it was really an interesting time in New Jersey high school football. The pendulum swung. It went from public to parochial, and parochial obviously has never looked back. So anyway, I played for Tony at Seton Hall. I was lucky. I played on a great football team with a lot of great football players. Many of them went on to great college careers. And I was fortunate enough. I was selected or I had the opportunity to go play at Penn State University for Coach Paterno. And, he's a legend. He's a second father to me. He's the kind of guy that I tried to emulate as much as I could as a young coach. I believed in his values and the core things of what he's done, and his record spoke for itself. It's a record I think will be untouched, especially in contemporary high school, college football, where no coach will simply last that long anymore. Right. And they make too much money to want to stay that long.
Right.
You have to be crazy to put up with the portal and the NIL,
Yep.
and that's another issue we could do on another show. But the reason,
or we can do it on this show. We will do it on this show at some point. Yes,
that's the reason the Harbaughs and the Sabins have all gotten out of it.
Right.
No one wants to deal with that. Even this last Penn State thing. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So anyway, so I went to Penn State. I had a pretty damn good career at Penn State. I was the captain. I was an All-American. I got drafted in the 6th round by Green Bay. In my second year, I blew my knee out on Thanksgiving Day against the Dallas Cowboys on national television. I remember calling home, and my mother, I hear her crying in the background. I had a bad knee injury as a rookie, came back, made the team again. We're playing on Thanksgiving Day. I get released from Green Bay. I'm playing with the Cardinals. We're playing Dallas on Thanksgiving, and it was really bothered me because that week I had drawn the assignment of who was the great special teams player Dallas had back in those years. Remember?
Bill Bates.
What was
Bill
it?
Bates?
Bill Bates. I had drawn Bill as my assignment that week because I was playing pretty damn good football for St. Louis. And I was all excited. Coach Chuck Banker from the Cardinals was a great special teams coach. Actually, I used many of his returns for 30 years in high school football. That's how good they were. But anyway, and I was all excited. Thanksgiving, I knew my family was home watching me on TV and the whole bit. And the first opening kickoff, I'm about to lay it into him. And my knee gets caught in the turf in Dallas. And then that was it. It was the third surgery. I just couldn't come back anymore. I was never a great athlete to begin with. I was a 5 40 guy. I just knew how to.
And knee injuries were different back then. The surgery and the rehab stuff like that shit was
run oriented. You know what I mean? So different linebacker, different type of guy.
Yeah.
And that day, pretty much my career ended. I tried to give it one more shot with the Jets. And it went again during mini camp. It went again. And I looked at my father and I came back and I said, Dad, I'm done. You know what I mean? I can't keep doing this. So for a long time, I was lost. I was very depressed. I was the kind of guy that thought he was going to play forever. And I would have if my knee didn't go. I would have played 10 years, And I just really was going through a dark time. I was sitting in my mother's basement doing airplane models, and I hate models, and I hate them. And I was sitting there at the table painting everything. And you know what's funny? I got damn good at it. I got a few of them to this day. And my mother comes down one day and goes, "You got to get going. What are you doing? Your whole life is ahead of you." And to me, my life had just been shattered. I worked my entire life to get to that point and had it taken from me before I thought it should be. And it was tough. So I get a phone call. A guy named Frank Verducci, who was the great coach at Barringer. Remember when Barringer had those great teams? Andre Tippett, Byron McMillan, those great teams. And Frank calls me, Tony's brother. Says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing, Coach. I'm just home." I said, I have nothing to do. He said, "Listen, why don't you get out of the basement, come here and help me. Take over this defense and come over." Well, at the time, it was Governor of Livingston High School, GL, and they only had 32 kids on the whole team, and 5 of the kids were deaf. They had a deaf program for kids. So you had to handle that a little differently.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it was hard to you had to make sure they always visually saw you, and they were great kids. They were tough kids, too. They had to be tough. But it was, my point is, so we had very few kids, and I fell in love with them. I fell in love with coaching, to see kids do things. I never realized that you maybe could get more satisfaction from seeing kids do something you taught them than doing it yourself.
Right.
And believe it or not, we had a tough football team, and I loved every moment with them, meeting with them. It was my first soiree into coaching, and I fell in love with I fell in love with coaching, and we wound up going 5-4. We actually played Immaculata to a draw back in the Pierce Fronheim days when they had 120 kids come to the field. I'll never forget. We're walking down to the field with the 32 kids, and one of their kids I hear go, "Oh, here comes their specialists." I went, "No, here comes their team." It's the whole team. So we come walking down, and we played the hell out of them. And it was just I realized that day it was something I wanted to do. And the beauty of those kids, how many of them ended up. One was the mayor of the town, Vinny Crisafi. Another one, Gary Del Duca, was a police chief. They all wound up being Mark Stallone, all these guys, a police sergeant. They all wound up being successful people in life. And I get together, believe it or not, with many of them to this day.
Wow.
It was just a special, special moment. So anyway, after that, I decided I want to be a head coach. So I go, well, my really 1 year ever coaching. I mean, I have a pretty damn good player resume, but it's not a coaching resume. So I hear that this job, Bloomfield, is open. Now, I remember Bloomfield from my days at Seton Hall. They were good. One of my dear friends, Lou Paradiso, was their quarterback back in those days. Tarantola, I remember Martino, all those guys. I remember as a little kid watching them play because I used to go to the Seton Hall games when I was a little kid.
Right.
And they were loaded back in those days. So I don't know what happened. And then all of a sudden, I see this job open. I do a little research. They're in the middle of a 30-game losing streak. They haven't won a game in 4 years. I'm saying, oh, my God, what the hell went on here? And I said, all right, well, I'm going to put my name in. Well, I don't think too many people wanted the job, to be quite frank with you. So, again, I kind of got it. I don't know if I got it out of credibility or I got it out of, hey, grab him because nobody else wants this. So let's grab him. So they grabbed me. And my first year there, it's an incredible story. I always said the Bloomfield thing would have made a great movie. It would have made a great movie. I come in there and it's a great lesson for all young coaches if they're listening in, how you think things couldn't get worse, but there's always a sunrise the next day.
Right.
I come into the first day and they're a shambles. They look bad on the hoof. I'm watching film. They're unorganized. They have no clue how to behave like football players, act like football players. So therefore, why would you expect them to play like football players?
Correct.
And I'm sitting there in our first game, believe it or not, we're playing Ridgewood. And Ridgewood's just coming off a state title. They're loaded. And we worked hard in the summer, but I didn't have the time to do the things I needed to do. But what I was going to do, I'm going to find a core of players here that I'm going to build around. And I told the seniors, I challenged them. I said, you have this kind of window. I said, you'll either perform well early or I'm obligated to make moves to younger people that I'm going to have the opportunity to develop. I'll take my beatings, but they're going to get field time. They're going to get reps. I had kids back in those days, Coach Jermaine Johnson, Freddie Valise, went up to Penn State, great players. I wound up, Nicky Diorsi, I wound up taking those guys. They were playing 3 games a week. They were playing freshman, JV, and varsity. I just wanted to feed them and force feed them as much football as I could. I remember I coached the JV on Mondays. Why? Well, people say, why would you do that? I taught my son this early in his career. When you take a program over, I want those kids on Monday to know this isn't just something taking up time. And if the head coach is on that sideline, those kids are going to want to perform. They're going to play hard. It's not just the JV game. I got the head football coach. He's calling the game. And he's the guy I got to impress. So me, it adds credibility to your JV. I'd rather do that than go sit and watch some film where we just got our butts kicked. And again, I get nothing from it. So again, piece by piece, I start injecting these young kids. But even through that, we go to Ridgewood. Ridgewood comes to us. We lose by 6 points. We play them to a dead dance. We played the hell out of them. The place is going nuts. We're going to be different. Oh, man, this is going to be something. Well, that was short-lived. All of a sudden, the reality of where we're at. I brought some wrinkles in that maybe bought us some time. We had some turnovers that maybe, again, got us some time. But then reality hit in. We're just not a good football team. I've had no time with them in the weight room. I've done nothing to get them ready. I haven't had the chance. And quite frankly, the beating started. The beating started one after another, and we end up 0-9. And I can't conceive 0-9. I've never been part of a loser in my life. So for me, to understand and come to grips with stop feeling bad for yourself. Stop stamping the ground. What did I get into? This is terrible. Grow up and go to work. Your work starts now. The minute that season ended, I grabbed them all and I said, we start right now. We go to work. And what we did was, back in the day at Penn State, we were the first football team in college football, major college football, to start on Nautilus. We started a Nautilus training facility. And Dan Riley, one of the great strength coaches in America, who Joe Theismann literally attributes the Washington Redskin turnaround during the days of the Hogs when they won world championships. Dan Riley was the man responsible for building the Hogs. We learned a technique at Bloomfield, and somehow I convinced the Bloomfield people we need to get bigger and stronger. It's that simple. We are physically mismatched. Football has nothing to do with it. Well, you got that old core of people at Bloomfield. I remember one guy, I'm trying to talk to the town committee, tell them, well, why don't you just make our small guys tougher? Well, I said, you know something, sir? That's an interesting statement, but it's also an ignorant one. I said, because when you make that statement, what you're assuming is that the big guy isn't tough. And if the big guy is tough and the little guy is tough, the big guy wins.
Great point.
I said, so that sounds great coming out of your mouth, but it's not the reality of what happens on a football field. So we went and got a Nautilus facility. We got about 10 machines. No one had it. No one. We go to work in the room. We start day one. I literally got to hand teach every kid the Nautilus technique. There was a 5-stage technique you had to learn, coming to a momentary point of muscular failure. Everything was in the technique itself. It was only a 40-minute workout, but it was a total body workout, total fatigue. Well, the kids took to it like rats to cheese. I mean, they just got good at it and got better at it and just kept coming and coming. And all of a sudden, Jermaine Johnson and Mark Gato go from 160 pounds to 180, 85. Freddie goes from 200 to 225. And I mean, looking the part. And the kids just bought in. We got bigger, stronger. We go into the next season. We start opening day. We're playing Paramus Catholic. The streak now is at something like, I don't know, 40, maybe, the losing streak. It's got to come to an end. And in a game that, like I said, Cecil B. DeMille could have done a great movie on this. It was the most passionate thing, the purest thing I've ever remembered my entire career. We beat them 7-0 in the last minute. I hit Freddie Valise in the seam. Lorenzo Sozio, who's the athletic director in Caldwell, throws us a seam into the thing to Freddie. We hold on. We win. We beat Paramus Catholic 7-0. The people come out of the stands. They tear down the goalposts. People were crying because you have to understand what just happened.
Right. There was a monumental shift in everything of life.
Everything.
This is so much bigger than just this game.
Exactly. This has it went beyond football. You had people crying because they had brothers that had never won a football game. Conceive that. 4 years.
That's crazy.
Brothers that never walked from the field with victory. You have to understand how bad it was. My players wouldn't even wear their varsity jackets to wrestling mats or basketball games because they were embarrassed. They were the joke of the state. And to see them rise up, and then like anything, losing is a habit. Guess what? So's winning.
Yep.
So's winning. Then we do it again against Paramus. Then we do it again. I forget who the third. So my point is we end that season 3-5-1. We played the hell out of everybody. Nobody embarrassed us. And I got them all coming back, a whole bunch of them. And then all hell took loose. We went back to work, and the feeling, you talk about the word culture that people bandy about easy. Right. That's a culture. I didn't have to say a word. I had a captain, Mark Gato, who's a multimillionaire today, lives in California next to the movie stars, owns his own company. You talk about a successful guy, just a kid that I knew back then. He was my captain from his sophomore year to the day he walked out. Now, there's no age requirement of captain. Leadership is born. Leadership is in your gut. Leadership is in your heart. There's no age requirement for leadership. Matter of fact, I love the fact that I made a young guy my captain because I had the leadership when it counted the most. Again, most mistakes made by young coaches, you give the most popular guy or maybe even your best football player the captaincy. That's not always who should be the captain. I did at Elizabeth. I made the captain the guy they hated the most. Why? Because I knew he wasn't afraid to stand up to the bunch of them.
Yeah,
that
he would have said whenever he wanted to. Yeah, he was going to.
So my point is, this kid here, he was a leader. It was in his blood. Now we got the culture. Now I got the leadership in the weight room. We went to Penn State in the offseason of football camp. We just drowned as much football in us as we could. We come back and there's a cute little interesting sidelight story. That third year, after the 3-5-1 year, that offseason, we go to Penn State for football camp. I loved my kids getting as much experience as they could. Again, the work needed to be done in the offseason. So I bring them home to Penn State. Guess who my roommate is? Lou Rattino. Now, Lou Rattino, great Union coach. Lou and I were very close. He was older, I was younger. Lou and I were roommates, and we had a great time together. Lou was such a fun guy. He was a great guy. But at the end, it's funny how life is, right? At the end, he goes, hey, Chet, work hard this year, and who knows, maybe we'll see each other in the playoffs. Now, we know Union is a perennial playoff team. What were the odds that we were the ones that banged them out of the playoffs? That was a backhanded
compliment towards you, like, hey, maybe we'll see you, buddy.
We knocked them out. Okay. And he don't know, a guy like me, you just motivated me. You just made me angrier.
Right. And you just poured it on the fire.
So now we're playing Teaneck, and if we win that game at Teaneck, week 9, we killed them. If we win that game, Union is out. They're not even in the playoffs. Remember, back then,
that was the old days.
That didn't happen. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Like today, everybody makes it.
Right.
Back then, you had to be good. Right. It was 4 teams. And we and they all show up at the game.
Yeah.
And you could see they're rooting against us. They want us to lose, obviously. And we killed Teaneck. We beat the crap out of them. And as they're leaving, you hear the entire Bloomfield side singing, goodbye, Union, see you next year, and everybody waving to them. What were the odds that my kids knocked them out of the playoff? So now we go to the playoff, and we're playing the number 1 team in the nation. In the nation, USA Today, was Elizabeth High School. Malik Jackson, Samaj Blow, Terry Hanratty, loaded. They looked like men. That when they came out, they looked like men. And I'll never forget, you remember in the old days when the Ledger used to come out with it was great in those days. And they'd have a paragraph in the prediction.
Yep.
It was great. You used to look forward to it, reading like so-and-so against so-and-so. And that little paragraph, they had all the games.
You guys have no idea what that was like.
Right? They have no idea. When you actually had to read, it wasn't, So anyway, I'll never forget the quote in the Ledger. Parlavecchio would truly have to be a magic man even to keep this close. And the prediction, they never went past 35. 35-0. Well, we go to Elizabeth that day, this team, and in the immortal words of Mike, my friend, the official, the best team didn't win here today, Chet. We lost 19-10, and we had their ass on the ropes. We had them. They never thought in a million years. Majette Tynes rushed for 185 yards. We played the shit out of them. We just played hard. And I remember at the end of the game, we lost 19-10 in the last minute. They scored, and the kids were crying. And I said, if I see anybody crying here, I will put my foot in your ass. I said, I am the proudest man on the planet today. I said, 2 years ago, you were the punchline to a running joke in this state. Mm-hmm. And today, you took the number 1 team in the nation down to the wire.
Nation.
I even get passionate today when I think about it.
Public school team, by the way, too, just so everybody knows. Like we just,
and to see that, those kids rise up like that. And, we went one more year, and then it was time for me to move. I wanted a new challenge. It was time for me to move on. And I went to Irvington. And
Well, the guy that took over for you at Bloomfield's still there, right? So Coach Carter's been there.
Coach Carter's still
been there since. You know what I'm saying?
Mike's a great guy. Mike is just a great guy.
He played with my father
We've gotten old together.
Yeah.
So I go to Irvington, 2 years there. Again, down program, hadn't made the playoffs in 8. We make the playoffs in our second year. I had some great kids. Again, when you turn programs over that are down, the number one thing you have to do as a coach is teach them how to practice. There's only one axiom that matters. You play the way you practice. If you learn how to practice, I'll tell you on Thursday if we're going to play well. I know on Thursday, when we leave the field on Thursday, I'll tell you if we're okay or we all better worry.
Right.
Go to Irvington, 2 years there. Again, I was told there that the kids won't come to practice. Well, your hardest thing is there. I said, maybe it's because whoever's there before me, he's the one that wants to be down the shore. You know, ever going on anybody that he might be the guy that wants to be down the shore?
Quick question. When you went to Bloomfield, were you teaching in the building at the time?
Yes.
And then when you went to when you went to Irvington, same thing?
Same thing.
Back then, part of it was for
right.
Same thing. So we go to Irvington again, and like I said, I was told they wouldn't come to practice. No, it was the ex-head coach that didn't want to come to practice. I had 15 doubles. They never missed a day. At the end of the day, I had to tell the kids, get out of here. I want to go home.
You got to go.
Because you know why? That was the Alamo. That school,
that was their safe
weight room, that field was the Alamo. They didn't want to go anywhere else. This was safe. It was a nice haven. And at this place, I had great kids. Great to see these kids turn around. So opening day, we're playing the number 1 team in New Jersey, Union High School. Opening day, play Union. We go for 2 with 15 seconds to go. We could have tied it up and ruined their season right then and there. But being you're trying to build something, the kids, I said, what do you want to do, boys? We want to go for 2, coach. Let's go for it. And it went right off of, and if he's watching, he'll say, damn it, coach, I told you, it wasn't off my fingertips. The reason I laugh at it because he wound up winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Schuman Singleton. It went off his fingertips, and we lost 13-12. We were going for the win. And Rotino, I never saw him sweat like that before. He said, I can't get away from you, can I? The next week, we play Elizabeth, the number 2 team in New Jersey. They run a double reverse with 35 seconds to go on the clock, and they barely beat us. So then, remember again, those paragraphs, the guy had a good line. He said, if it's possible, Irvington High School must be the best 0-2 football team in the world. He said, because they just played the number 1 and 2 teams to a dead draw. We wound up winning 4 in a row. I think we ended up 5-4 that first year. But my point is, again, we learned how to play football. We learned how to practice. We learned how to prepare. We did what we needed to do in the weight room. At the end of the second year, Ron Dickerson gets the Temple job, the Temple University job. Ronnie was a Penn State guy. And he gives me a call, and he says, Chet, I've been wanting to do this for a while. He says, would you come and coach my linebackers for me? I said, I would love to. It's time for me maybe to get out of high school for a while. Me and my wife get together. My son is just born. We go down to South Jersey, which might as well be Australia. South Jersey, North Jersey. There isn't every bar you go in is Flyers, Eagles, Sixers.
It's something we've learned since Dave and I have relocated to Central, right, where we are kind of now. If you go below us, buddy, like below that shore where, like,
they want nothing to do with us.
It's Philly, nothing to do with us. It is 100% Philadelphia. Like, it is go Birds all over.
Nothing. So anyway, I take the job. Ron called. I said, I'd love to. I said, Ron, I want to bring my linebacker with me. I said, I got a kid here, and he wound up being an All-American. He was their captain. Schuman Singleton, one of the great players, he lives in Chester. He played 10 years in the National Football League. He won a world championship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, finished with the Cowboys under Parcells, one of my great players I ever had. Matter of fact, what kind of kids I had at Irvington? I had another young man, Fenton Dakota, who designs weaponry for Picatinny Arsenal. He's one of the most brilliant young men you've ever seen.
Not a bad
and
game.
Here's one you might know. My defensive back was Raheem Morris.
There you go.
Just the head coach. Raheem played for me at Irvington.
Now he's the DC for the look, and he's already got another job. So he's the
That's
DC
right.
For
and actually, it was kind of cute. When I was with the Titans, I got to coach against him when he was the head coach at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So, to see Raheem go. But my point is, the Irvington thing was a wonderful thing, but I wanted to go to college football. So I go for 2 years. I'm with Ron Dickerson, and it was tough. People laugh, listen, in fairness to what we had to go through at Temple, we didn't play in Conference USA. We played in the old Big East. We played with Virginia Tech, Boston College when they had the great teams. Right. We played Miami when they had
Syracuse.
The old Big East when it was really good. And we just couldn't get out of our own way. We had some, don't get me wrong, we had some great players, but I didn't like the direction I saw things going. And
Temple's always been a tough sell, Coach, because look, you're battling with Penn State in state.
Absolutely.
It's the location of where it is in the city.
Again. Oh, no, you laugh about Al Gold. Now, don't get me wrong. That was the kind of funny part. You would think it's hard to sell North Philly. It's hard to sell that area because, let's be honest, it's a rugged area.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Well, we used to have a lot of fun with it because when we would do our recruiting trips, we would tell parents, and we never lied. We just left out something. We never lied. We told them that this is the safest campus in America, and it was. What we left out was we're also the only campus that has armed guards.
Yeah.
If you didn't ask, I'm not going to tell you.
No,
so anyway, we left that out. But it was the safest. And don't get me wrong, kids that came to Temple had great recruiting trips. Remember, there's a lot to do. You go down to the waterfront. You go to the waterfront and go downtown Center City. The kids loved their trip to Temple. It was just the mothers and fathers that got a little nervous when they saw it. So it was, like I said, it was a give and take. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it. But in that league, I knew we were never going to move. And I really, be honest with you, I had a little trouble with the school system, too, with my children. My wife one day comes over and says, Coach, listen here. Your son has no homework. I said, what does that mean, hon? Because I'm involved in, what I'm doing at Temple. She goes, Chet, did you see his homework? He was doing this in kindergarten. He's in first grade. I said, something's up here. Time to come back north. I packed the family up, and I'm looking for a job. Well, there's this place called Passaic Valley, and I never heard of it, never knew anything. I knew Joe Bashaha from many years earlier was the coach there because I played for Joe in the first New Jersey All-Star football game, which was at the Meadowlands. And it was the first game, the Daily News All-Star game. It was awesome. A great experience. Some great players in it. Andre Tippett, who's in the Hall of Fame. The quarterback of the Redskins, the backup, the kid, what was his name? Was backup for the Redskins for years. Won world champ. I'll think of his name in a minute. But a lot of great players were in this game. And it was an awesome game. Went down to the last minute. But that's how I knew Joe. So I said, this job is open. Let me see. I go there. How did I know the superintendent was a Penn State groupie? He loved Penn State football. So he saw my resume, brought me in. He knew about what would happen at Bloomfield and Irvington. He knew I just came to college. Whatever, we have a marriage. It's done. We get it done. And once again, very similar. Not as bad, but we go to work. I could see this team is physically inadequate. They're just not physical enough to be ready to win football games the way I want to win football games. We need to develop ourselves in the weight room. We need to develop ourselves in the off-season program. We need football experiences. I ran one of the nicest things I did, Coach, for many years, and one of the biggest things I'm proud of in my career. I ran a football camp every summer, the Chet Parlavecchio football camp. And I brought in some of the greatest players you can imagine, the Wheel Wisniewskis, the Sean Farrells, the Mike Munchaks, the Mark Dudas, all of them, Tony Saragusa, all the friends of mine. And they wouldn't just come there and take a picture. They worked. They were in the dirt with the kids for 3 days. That was my camp. It made no money. It just paid for itself. But I did it to make kids better because I watched for many years as a player and a coach these camps, and sometimes they're scammy. You're not getting nothing for your dollar. I made sure that when kids left my camp, they were better football players. That was an obligation I had to young men. And all my coaches that were there, and every position was represented by a professional athlete and guys that can coach, not just being a pro. It was an awesome thing we used to do. So I ran that at Passaic Valley. I brought my camp to Passaic Valley. And then all of a sudden, we start getting good. The first year, we lose to Del Barton 10-9. My first year on home field, and we played the crap out of them. Things are going to move quicker here, I get the sense. We're going to move. We're a little more athletic than I thought we could be. They just need to get bigger, stronger, more physical. I want to dominate the line of scrimmage. That's my style of football. I want to beat you up. My style of football was I want to take your heart. If I could take your heart and wear you down, I win. And this team bought in, and man, by the second year, we won 22 games in a row. I mean, we were scary coming out of the locker room. They bought in, and the Derek Gaffneys, the Kevin Floods, the Ray Reddens, the Carmen Venezianos, the Joey Benvenutis, the Al Capellos, these guys came out of the room, and you said, whoa, who the hell was that? Well, our standard was going to be simple. We want to beat Del Barton. That's the standard. If we can beat Del Barton, then we got our program where we want it to be. We lost to them 10-9.
What comp was that? Was that the Northern Hills Conference back then too?
Yeah.
Or no?
And that was rugged, Coach. That was rugged.
Well, you had the two levels, right? You had the Northern Hills, because I always played in Northern Hills. We were.
And remember back then, Lakeland was real good. They had the kid Sante Motherwell. Remember that kid Motherwell?
Dude, Lakeland's always good.
West Milford was good.
I think Wayne Valley was in that.
Wayne Valley was good. They had the big quarterback. Oh, no, the Northern Hills. Matter of fact, it's funny you said that, Coach, because when I took the job, I knew nothing of the Northern Hills Conference. And then I remember being, after my first year, I said, man, this damn Butler was in the other side.
Yep.
I said, this conference is good, man. These teams, I'm not used to this. I'm from Essex County. These teams,
it was Butler, Caldwell, Pequannock, Madison.
Yeah, Pequannock.
Now were really good. We were in the smaller. We were in the bigger one.
We were with Del Barton.
Right. So there was Del Barton.
You were our crossover.
Like you said. Yeah, it was
Butler
brutal.
was the crossover.
Yeah,
you know
PV kind of used to like go back and forth a little bit, or when we played like that crossover.
Yep.
Because
Pequannock became our crossover.
Too. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, we finished this. We get rolling, and we win 20 in a row, win 2 league titles back to back. But more importantly, we beat Del Barton 2 years in a row. And I remember we were on their 1 yard line with about playing out the clock, and the kids look at me and go, Coach, let's put it in. And I said, boys, no, we don't do that. I said, we don't do that. I said, just take the knee. Oh, come on. I said, boys, it's better to take the knee on the 1 yard line. I think that sends a better message. I said, instead of putting it in, I said, it was funny. We got the golf clap from the Del Barton people. We got the old golf clap for taking the knee.
Listen, and that's usually their
we got the golf clap, and here's the funniest part about the whole thing. We beat them, like I said, 2 years in a row. I actually had them beat the third year too. Got ripped off, but that's another issue. But what are the odds? My son becomes a captain and an all-state player for Del Barton.
Del Barton, absolutely. Yeah,
I didn't want to burn no bridges because I might want my kid to go here.
Right.
Who was that?
Anyway,
was that Coach Qualick at the time?
The rest is history. We wind up.
Was that Coach Qualick at Del Barton?
Excuse me?
Was that Coach Qualick at Del Barton?
Oh, yeah, John. Yep. And then we wind up going to play. Again, I can't seem to get away from the #1 team in New Jersey. We wound up going to play an incredible Hoboken team for the state title. The year before, we had a crushing loss to Sparta in the semis. But the next year, we go to the finals at the Meadowlands. We're actually the last game played. And I don't have my best football player. Kevin Flood is out. He had been out for the last 2 weeks. We're trying to scrape it together. I'm not saying we win because they were dynamite. They had 3 Division I running backs. Rayvon Anderson went to North Carolina. The kid that quarterbacked at Penn State. They were loaded. They had a great
Rashard Casey
team.
Rashard Casey.
Rashard Casey, Coach. You got it.
Were you just talking about him, Dave, the other day? We were just talking about him, right? Because we were talking about Wilbur Valdez.
Wilbur Valdez, they were loaded. That Hoboken team was loaded.
Yeah.
And we, again, if you would have told me in the morning that Jerome Tillman was going to rush for 287 yards, I would have told you we won. Well, guess what? They had 3 backs that went over 100 yards. So, we lost like 35-20, something like that. We gave, but what a run at Passaic Valley. It was 5 brilliant years. It was awesome. I loved it, but I was ready now. Once I realized I couldn't beat Del Barton anymore, and I sensed things were changing. The community town was. Right. I said, I need a new challenge. Well, now Clifton comes calling, and they're another team that hasn't done anything for a long time. And it took a little longer at Clifton. We take the Clifton job, a lot of hype with that, because if you remember, Clifton was notorious for torturing coaches. Yeah. They went through, remember that it was like the reputation of Clifton was the community is too involved. So right from the beginning, I guess maybe I made some enemies because they used to have a tradition in Clifton, the Monday night meeting with the town, and used to bring the film and show the film. And they have a Q&A with the people. So the first one, I appear, Coach, where's the camera? There ain't going to be no camera. And the only reason I'm here now is to say what I have to say. The Monday meeting is now finite, done. There is no more Monday meeting. And, well, why? It's a tradition. I said, it could be. But with the success that you've had on the football field over these many years, I said it's a tradition that needs to be changed. I said, I know I make mistakes. I don't need some jackass on a Monday morning quarterback telling me I made it. I said, we're not going to do that. I said, we don't need that pressure. The program doesn't need that pressure, and my staff doesn't need that pressure. This single thing is as responsible for keeping these kids down as anything. Because, see, a lot of times, Coach Schuman, what you realize and what I learned in all my years about down programs, sometimes the kids are the least responsible.
Of course.
Sometimes the adults are as guilty about what happened here as them. Give you an example. First game at Clifton. We're playing football. We're getting the crap kicked out of us. Again, I got to evaluate what I have here. But I'm noticing, and it's in my ear, that the play-by-play guy or the guy that does the thing over the loudspeaker at the game is having a good old time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Doing trivia, doing whose birthday, and let's give a – and meanwhile, the kids are playing, and kids are making tackles. And I don't hear tackle by so-and-so, nothing. At the end of the game, I go upstairs. I said, from this moment on, knock off the shtick. Nobody came here to hear you. They're here to watch their kids play. Mm-hmm. The show isn't you. I said, from now on, you call the down, the distance, and who made the tackle or who made the run. That's what you're paid to do. I said, because when you do what you're doing, you're trivializing what's going on that field, and you're embarrassing my kids. You're making it seem that what's on the field is a joke. I said, and I don't coach jokes. I've never been part of a joke on a football field in my life. And I thought that was such an important thing to understand. I had the same problem at Passaic Valley. I had a guy that wanted to be a funny man. Do it on your time. He was the baseball coach. I said to him, you want me to come to your game and start singing between innings?
Right. I'll do that shit.
Right. You want me to start doing that? I said, when you do things like that, you're trivializing what's going on the field. And especially when a team is down, when a team has not had success, you're embarrassing.
Oh, it's brutal.
Even more.
It's like you're twisting the knife. You're making it more of a, hey, this is a comedy hour. This is a joke. It doesn't
matter.
Yeah,
like we're running a joke.
For
so
people,
my point to you is sometimes there's a lot of things that need to be fixed.
That's
to
true.
Create a winning culture. You don't hear that stuff at Bergen Catholic. You don't hear that stuff at Northern Highlands.
Well, that's the part of the problem.
Winning programs.
Like when you're not winning and the program is a certain way, there's in order to get out of it, like you said, when you have to focus on things that people don't think turning around a program, like part of it, this doesn't matter. Yes, it does. The communication with the cheering coach or what the cheerleaders do, the band, all of those things.
I had to yell at the guidance counselor. Believe it or not, people want to talk to our kids now. You see, losing is a very complacent state of mind.
Correct.
People don't ask you for nothing. No newspaper wants to talk to you. No colleges are here. You're a running joke, so there's no pressure on anybody. But then all of a sudden, we're winning, and I've got some prospect, and these recruiters come in. You got to put the coffee down in the donut and go get the transcript.
Do some work. Yes.
Right?
Do your job.
Of what you did. So for people viewing it, if you ever watched the movie Radio, remember when he comes in there, that was kind of always the tradition, right?
Yep.
And Radio was kind of the impetus for him that this needs to change, right? Like, and he goes in there and he basically ends that whole meeting thing that they had always done for years. And everybody's like, huh? And it, it changed the way that they thought about the program. So the players could feel better about what they were doing, and versus having to I always thought that that's one of the things that is so important in changing the culture, is that as a player, you're not playing for what everybody else thinks about you. It's about doing the best that you can be and trying to be the best player that you can be, that will ultimately help the team. And when you're trying to play for what this person who's your friend is, or this parent, or this sometimes for a parent it's good, sometimes it's not, or for this person in town, you're not focused on what you have to do, and you end up worrying about what their judgment is. And that's the biggest mistake, especially, all athletics, but football in particular, because it's such a team game, right? Because that could spread, right? That spreads.
Wildfire.
So it's like wildfire. And you're, instead of focusing on what you have to do as a team, those players, and having been someone who, much like you, have taken over some difficult programs, I noticed that with administrators, what you said. Like, guess what? College coach. I used to remember the first time, like when I was at Saddlebrook, and I had Steve Maneri, who went to Temple, and Steve Boharnis, who ended up playing in the NFL for a little bit, and some really good players. But I was only there 2 years, so I didn't get to see them all the way through. But I remember the second year when all these college coaches were starting to come in, and the administrators were like, "You can't take them out of class. You can't have them sit with a coach." I said, "Well, wait a minute. You're saying this because no but coaches have come in to see players.
Right. You've never had to do it.
You haven't had to do, or haven't had to do it in a while, right?
Right.
Haven't had to do it in a while, right? And that is an important thing for their future. They're not coming here to disrupt your class. They're coming here to take a kid who might have an opportunity that can advance himself, right? And that's why they're going out. Not for
and that guy's going to be here today in this moment. We can't tell him, well, you come back after.
Right.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
I have this half hour with this guy. We need to speak to him now. You know what it is, Coach? Everything, and I tell young coaches, everything is perception. How do you want to be perceived? How do you want your program to be perceived? Do you want to look professional? Do you want to be professional? Do you want to be organized? I always tell you, I want to be perceived as this program looks, these guys are well coached. These guys are prepared. This is a program. Little things like, you laugh. I used to get fanatical about tucking your shirt in. When your shirt is out, you look beaten. You look tired. And the perception of you is that you are beaten and you are tired.
Absolutely.
So when your opponent looks at a bunch of with your hands on your hips and your shirt hanging out, you look like you're beaten, like you're ready to drop. But when you stay sharp and you look sharp and you're staring at that other huddle, they're saying, I can't get to these guys. I can't get to them. I just can't get to them. Everything, little things, everything is perception, from the biggest thing to the little thing.
The
body language, everything is perception. Everything.
Buses, like when administrators, and Derek actually coached with me. We used to be my last 2 years of being a coach when I was at Red Bank, and it used to drive me nuts. And I know Derek too is very meticulous. When we would be like, we need the buses at this time, because I wanted to get there. It wasn't that we were necessarily going on the field at that time. I wanted them to have enough time to get themselves settled, because I know as a player, you know what I mean, that was always essential
their routine,
for me.
Like their
so we could talk to them, so we could go through things, so they can There are some kids that need more time to get ready. Literally, there are some kids that their mind, it takes a little bit of time. I'm here at a new place. I'm in this tiny locker room. This is not what I'm used to. And it used to drive me nuts when administrators would be like, "Oh, the earliest we could get in here is this."
They'll get there when they get there.
They get there when they get there. And I'd be like,
I'm paying them. I want them here now.
Correct.
That's it.
Again, do your job.
Hold people accountable. I do it with my staff. Hey, listen,
people don't like that.
Coach. I always have the rule. I let you coach till you show me you can't.
Right.
If all of a sudden that running back is putting the ball on the ground, I'm going to call you in and say, show me the drills that you're doing for ball security. Show me what drills you're doing. I want you to assess to me why this ball is being put on the ground. Same token, when I have a guy like Jerome Tillman who has 300 carries in a year and doesn't put the ball on the ground one time, I'm going to go put my arm around that coach and I'm going to promote him. He's done a great job. You let people do their jobs. Supposedly, they're supposed to do their jobs. You hold people accountable. And that's at any level. Believe me, the NFL included. It's at any level. So anyway, let me finish where we're going with this.
Good.
Yeah, so now we're going, the Clifton experience is great. And we finally get to the playoffs. We're playing Morristown up there, and who eventually wins it. We played a hell out of a good football game, but a very proud moment. The kids did a great job. I mean, I really was, the kids just did a great job. But at the end of that season, after the playoff season, I see this Elizabeth job is open. And I always knew there had to be kids there. There had to be.
Oh, of course.
5,000
students.
I want my shot, but everybody in the state wants their shot at this. You know what I mean? And it becomes a very heated hiring. A lot of good people around the state are in on this job. There was a racial aspect to it.
Yeah.
I went through hell. I'll never forget the chief of police telling me, he says, Chet, before we hired you, we did a background check that a president would be proud of. He said, we couldn't let anything in your past come up and,
because they'll find it.
It was tough. And the Congressman whatchamacallit who spoke in my behalf, what was his name? He just passed away. His son is a current congressman. I'll think of his last name in a minute. He came on my behalf and he spoke and whatever. They called Paterno. They covered their bases.
Wow.
I get the job, and it was one of the most exciting.
Isn't it crazy to think about? Like, wow.
It was exciting. I get the job in June. Now, I got very little time. I know I can't do much in the weight room. I don't have the time. I've got to get these guys on the field. We got to work hard in the offseason in the summer. I got to see the hand I've been dealt here, and I got to teach these kids how to practice. We go to work. There was an apprehension. They were very apprehensive towards me. They were very distant. And like I said, there was a racial aspect that had shown its face in the hiring. So they were going to feel me out, and I'm feeling them out. And I remember my first meeting with them. I said, boys, I'm going to ask you for nothing. I said, I'm going to earn everything from you, and you're going to do the same from me. And we'll build our relationship on that. I said, so let's put all the crap that went on before this, and let's go to work and see where this leads us. We go to work. Again, I could see they got to know how to practice. They don't know how to practice. We had to be more efficient. I'm a fanatical guy, coach. I will miss a team period. I won't miss an indie period. I think the bottom line of any coach, your individual skill periods are the most important periods in a practice. The team stuff you could always make up. Individual skill development, bottom line. Do I come off the ball right? Can I tackle? All those things. So we want to really focus on individual development. I want to see what they have. But I could see we're kind of athletic. I could see I got some speed. I could see we're athletic. We're not weight room sound, but there's some nice kids, whatever. We call for a 7-on-7. We bring in St. Peter's Prep with Thrill Hill and all of that group. Yep. We said, let's see. I called I said, bring your kids down. I said, let's see what we go. Let's see if we can hang in there. Now, one of the stereotypical things about a team with speed is you want to play man-to-man and come with pressure. I'm of the other school of thought. When I have great athletes, I want to become a real good zone football team. I want to bait windows because turnovers don't occur in man-to-man.
Right.
Okay? Well, what happens in man-to-man is you might get a tackle for a loss or a sack. You might get an incomplete, or you're going to get burned and for a touchdown. Okay? When you're in the zone, things are in front of you. You can see the football field. Very rarely are there big plays, and that's where you can get interceptions and turnovers. So we go to do a simple 7-on-7 in the summer. It's late July. We're doing it. We beat them 12-0. Not 12 points, 12 touchdowns to nothing. St. Peter's. We made them look like children. They couldn't complete a ball. That's how quick we learned how to close in the zone. So now Mike, I'm selling the kids on it. And even to this day, a couple of my boys that still coach there say, Coach, I'm trying to tell this guy, man, we're a zone football team. Stop with the man-to-man stuff. I won't pressure unless you hit my red zone. You hit the 20, maybe I'll come after you because the field is shorter. But Coach, we had 37 interceptions. We scored more points defensively than we gave up.
That's incredible.
Arguably, I said this, and I made this statement after we won the state title. Maybe the best defensive football team since my Seton Hall teams. We were just getting better and better and better. Now, there's a loss on that season the second week because now I come to this program and you could sense, and all of a sudden, I'm noticing the kids are coming to practice early. They're coming in my office. We're starting to get together. We're starting to like each other. We're starting to find that rapport. And I could sense the boys are, hey, Coach, what are you doing? They come in my office, we watch TV together, boom, boom. We're starting to glue. We're starting to come together. We go to work, the season starts in June. We go to work, and second week, all of a sudden, we revert back against Hudson Catholic. We revert back to our old ways. And I tell my staff, I said, leave it alone. Let it finish out. This is a good thing. I said, this is a good thing because now it's going to allow me to do the things I needed to do to certain players that they didn't think I would do. I had a Heisman Trophy candidate, Ray Graham, who was one of the greatest running backs I ever saw. I sat him the next week. I sat him because he thought this was the Ray Graham show. No, there's no Ray Graham show here. This is a team. I had guys, and you're talking about one of the greatest players I've ever seen as a running back, but he needed to sit. He needed to know. And what you do, sometimes people don't realize when you're initiating a disciplinary situation, sometimes when once I made him sit, what do you think the rest of them are thinking? Hey, if he made him sit, he sure as hell is going to make me sit. Sometimes you have to have the guts to sit your best player. A lot of young guys don't want to do that. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not living through the kids. I'm trying to teach them how to get there. I want them to get to where I've been. So what I'll do is I'll make an example of him that next week. You don't want to run it this way? Then you sit and I'll put somebody else in. And then the next 2 weeks, we had our two biggest games, Irvington and Union, back-to-back. We beat them both without him. And he came up to coach, I'm going to do it your way. The rest is history. Ray Graham became what we became. Again, Heisman Trophy finalist. So, again, he just had to buy in. Once Raymond bought in, everybody else bought in. So now that loss was a good thing. We don't lose that game. I always tell people this. We don't win the state title. It allowed me to make an example of certain things that I needed to make an example of. And once we did that, they realized this guy's not kidding. He means what he says. And then we went to work. And we were just getting better and better every week. We go to Phillipsburg, and they're lucky it was windy out because it wasn't. We really would have kicked the crap out of them. It was just a great high school football game. They beat the winningest public school program in state history, Phillipsburg, and it could have been better for a state title. And we were just, like I said, to see the town, to see what it meant to the town of Elizabeth. We had a parade. They go at the end of the thing, go, we're going to have a parade, Coach. So I'm figuring to myself, a parade. I want 20 people on the road.
Right.
It was packed up and down Broad Street. People cheering, playing instruments, throwing confetti. It was unbelievable. Donald Payne was the congressman that helped. Donald Payne's going to speak to them after Congressman Payne is coming down, going to address everybody at the stadium. The parade went through the length of the town. It meant so much to that community to win that title. And to see the kids, just the joy. And again, I had Hafiz Williams go to Notre Dame. Yep. Kasim Green had a great career at Rutgers, was one of their great linebackers. Ray Graham went to Pitt, a Heisman Trophy finalist. Michael Ergel went to Purdue. I mean, I go down to Basim Uddin, went to Idaho State. I mean, I can go down the line. My boys, it was a great football team. It was the only time that I've ever in the history of high school football remember. You know how normally, you get the all-state team to come out and, whether a good team or a bad, Coach, every team has a linebacker because you're going to put your best kid there. He's your toughest kid. We all have a linebacker we're proud of. So you would say it's impossible really for all three of your linebackers to be first team, all group, all state, not group 4, all group, all state. All three of my linebackers were first team,
That's
all
incredible.
group, all state. All three. Kasim Green, Siam Bass, and Basim Houdin. All three were first team. That's what tells you. And it was, Coach, when it was over, I'm not a numbers guy, but you talk about a defense that the numbers were perfect. All 4 D linemen had about 40-something tackles, maybe 50. All the tackles for losses. All 3 linebackers had 100+. The leading tackler in the secondary had 18 tackles, which tells you what? No one ever got into my secondary.
No.
That's pretty. The up front 7 made sure nobody got into my secondary, but they had 37 interceptions, the 4 back there. 37. It was unbelievable. They had 4 or 5 in one game twice. I mean, they were unbelievable. They were just, I'm sorry, not 37, 27. Not 37, 27. 27 picks. And like I said, scored more points defensively than we let up. And they were something. It was a great joy to coach those kids. I stay in touch with many of them today. Actually, Basim Houdin just got inducted into their Hall of Fame. He called me this week. I got to go to that. So it was just what a great memory for me, for them. And it's a bond. You win a title, Coach, and it's a bond that never leaves you, a band of brothers. 2 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago, you talk about the greatness of football, not to sway off the subject, what develops. I met with that Bloomfield team that went to the playoffs against Elizabeth. All of them showed up, all 15 seniors that year. We had a dinner. Mark Gato took the bill. He's the rich guy. We went to the steakhouse, and all 15 of them showed up. They're all doing well. A couple of them are grandfathers already. Right. But I said to them, boys, when I took that job, I said something to you a long time ago, 30 years ago. I said something to you. I said, when you're done with your high school career, all I want is that when you think back to our day, you have a smile on your face, that it was a great experience for you. I said, I think today, 35 years proves it. It's a band of brothers. It's that experience banded us all together for the rest of our lives. And that's the greatness of the game of football. Outside of war, it's the closest thing. It's a physical confrontation. And it takes more than just being a good athlete. It takes a band of brothers. It takes a bunch of guys that are willing to go through hell to get something done. And it's the same thing with my Elizabeth kids. We stay in touch all the time. Life hasn't been great for some kids. Life has had bumps. But when they think of their football career, they smile. They have a smile on their face. And that's what it's about. And then, after Elizabeth, I got a call that I couldn't turn down. Mike Munchak becomes the head coach with the Tennessee Titans. He said, Chet, I want you with me. He said, I wanted you with me for 40 years. Me and Mike were roommates at Penn State. We've been friends for over 50 years. It was a thing. And I love what Muncher said. When he was asked, you're bringing this guy from high school. I mean, we know he played pro, but, bringing this guy, what do you know about him? He goes, I've been watching him interview for 30 years. Every year I did his camp, I watched him, and I know exactly what he can do. And he brought me on as a special teams coach for 2 years. I think I did a pretty damn good job. I got 2 game balls. It was exciting. I learned an aspect of the game that I didn't think I could learn, and I really got good at it. I almost became the coordinator, but I wanted to coach linebackers. At the end of my second year with the Titans, I get a promotion to linebackers. I did a pretty good job. I had a kid named Darius Renaud who played for the Giants for a while, and we brought him in, and D-Ray had a tremendous skill level. And I think the thing that did it for me was, but he had a bad problem. He put the ball on the ground. Well, when I took the job in Tennessee, I was kind of nervous. I didn't know whether I could coach at the pro level or not, or what it would be like. But I did make one promise to myself. I'm not going to come here and not coach. I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to make it exciting for these guys. Now, my job was with special teams, obviously, to design things, whatever the things we did. But individually, I had the return men, I had the gunners. Okay. And that was important. I mean, at the NFL level, you have to learn how to gun, how to stalk, how to, and again, the way these kickers are, the return men, it's a huge deal. I said, the deal I've been given is Darius Renaud puts the ball on the ground. How am I going to make him better? And I design drills. Remember I told you about individual period? I design drills. I used to do look drill with the gun. You know the gun that shoots the football?
Yeah.
I used to do look drills. Turn your back to me, D-Ray. And when the ball's at its peak, when I say you hear me yell, look, you turn, find, establish position, get square, slight bend in your knees, elbows in, thumbs to the outside, and then gather your position. Get to the spot. Then I used to do a 3-man key drill. I used to put 3 guys literally 15 yards from them. And the gun would shoot the punt, look, turn around, field it, and then I would send one of the guys. Because one of the key things about punt returning, it's your obligation to make the first guy miss. After that, the return will develop. But you have to make the first guy miss. That's just the way it is in punt game.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yep. So I developed drills where I literally had guys like Chris
did that
Johnson.
exact drill at the Jets camp when I exact drill.
I have guys like Chris Johnson, Michael Griffin coming over to me going, Coach, can I do that? Coach, can I do? Let me jump in, man. Let me do it. It looks like fun. It looks like fun. And that's what I wanted to make it. And it just caught on. And the end of that story is simple. Darius Renaud was the only return man in the top 10 in the National Football League in both punt and kick returns. And in 16 regular season and 4 preseason games, never put the ball on the ground one time. Now I get my promotion. He fumbles 3 times in training camp, and he gets cut the next year.
Incredible.
The guy stopped doing the drills. He stopped the work, and poor D-Ray suffered because of it. I always felt guilty about that, but that's the NFL. I had to move on to do what I had to do. But like I said, it was just a great experience. People always ask me, what was it like? I said it was powerful. It's powerful. Coaching in the NFL, you have no idea the magnitude of the power of the National Football League in this country and the power of it. Let's be honest. It owns 3 days of the week. It owns Monday, Thursday now, and Sunday.
And one's God's day.
Right. It owns 3 days of the week. So, like I said, it's a powerful thing. Is it fun? At times, it gets tedious. It gets, it's constant. A lot of hours. You know what I mean?
Tons.
I don't know if fun describes it. I don't know if fun describes it.
And I don't know if people actually understand from a coaching perspective what the amount of hours that it entails. Because look, they see obviously
in season.
They see the games, they see, training camp, Hard Knocks has opened a lot of eyes to a lot of people, but to know what a NFL coach goes through weekly, especially in season with, this isn't, all right, we show up, go practice, go home. And it's not even on the level of college where, hey, you show up, meeting, practice, whatever, home. This is multiple meetings. You're spending the entire day, if not into the evening, at the facility.
Well, here's the
without the travel that goes into it too. They don't just understand it.
Here's the difference between this and college. At least 6 months of the year or 5 months of the year, for whatever, we have an easy go. The off season is nice. The offseason, you come in only 3-4 days a week, a lot of time off to spend with your – the offseason is lovely. What's become in college football, there is no offseason.
Absolutely.
And that's why, believe it or not, they're making more money than NFL coaches. They're getting paid more than NFL. Their job is tougher.
You're seeing a lot of college coaches, hey, how do I get to the – if those aspirations are where they want to be, right? Everybody just assumes, because we talk about this too, that, everybody always wants to move up or go from position coach to coordinator to head coach. Like some guys don't want to do that, right? But what we're seeing a lot more of is guys really trying to make the jump from college to the pros because of that world where 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I have to recruit my room on a daily basis. And you're the third string center who wants $1 million based off of what, right? Where as in the NFL, you know what that guy gets paid and you know what you have to like. That aspect, I think, is what's changed.
I'll give you a cute little side story to it. In our third year, going into our third year, that's when Coach Paterno died, and Penn State was looking for a job, looking for a coach before O'Brien got it.
Right.
And not many people know this, but the job was ours. They wanted Mike Munchak and Chet Parlavecchio to come to Penn State. Penn State had been through a bad time, like we know, with the incident, and they wanted Penn Staters back. So I remember one day Munch called me in his office, said, Chet, how do you feel about going back to Penn State? I said, Munch, to me, it's going home. I would love it. I said, you kidding? I said, what do you think? He goes, well, I think we're going to do it. I've been in touch with the people have called me, and it's ours to decide. But what I've told them is at that year, the funny part about it was we were in a playoff run. We had a real chance to make the playoffs in Tennessee. So we had to shut our mouths. We didn't want nobody to know that at the end of this season, we might be going to Penn State. And I remember Coach saying to me, he goes, Chet, just keep it quiet. He goes, I just wanted to know what you thought. I said, no, I'm in. I said, you kidding? My dream job. I said, let's go. So now everybody's asking me. Rumors are getting out. But if you remember, Penn State didn't pick the next head coach for a long time. It was, you're wondering, like, when are they going to pick this guy? They were waiting on us. They were waiting. We couldn't say anything during the season. But everybody kind of was getting itchy. And I remember Fran Gantner and Dick Anderson calling me, Chet, you guys got to come. Penn State needs Penn Staters. It needs Penn State people to come back. I said, all right, well, boom. I said, you got to talk to the boss, but whatever. Okay. So anyway, make a long story short, the end of the season comes and Munch says, Chet, come in my office, come and see me again. And he goes, listen, I decided against it. I said, that's all right. It's not like we're in a bad place. We're here in Tennessee. I mean, with the Titans, it's great. I said, but I got to ask you. He said, what? I said, what reason? He said, Chet, because the owner will come after me with everything he's got. He said, I'm drawing the name, one of the oldest guards in the NFL. I'll think of his name in a minute. He said, he will come after. He gave me a head job when nobody else would. And I remember looking at Munch saying, and you know something, Muncher? He'd be right to do so. Right. That man gave you a head job in the National Football League based on your loyalty to him. And Muncher being the loyal guy that Munch is, Munch said, nah, Chet, we just can't do it. I said, oh, we're good. And that's when they hired O'Brien. So now fast forward after that next couple of years, when this guy, Franklin, before Franklin gets the job, when OB leaves to go back to the NFL, we're in the picture again. This time, though, Munch is the second choice. Their primary choice is Franklin. Right. And I'm not a Franklin fan, but their primary choice is Franklin. And we know that. And they meet in their meetings and whatever. And if Franklin turns it down, it's going to be Munch. And we're in. And Franklin takes the job. That's all right. We stay where we're at. Boom. Franklin goes and does what he wants. Well, now Franklin gets fired. And Mike Munchak, I'm wondering, Muncher, I give him a call. We're both retired. I said, Muncher, you gonna put the feeler in? What are you feeling? He said, Chet, this is by us. He said, this game is past us now. He said, it isn't you offer a kid a scholarship anymore. You got to sit with his agent. You got to discuss what money you're going to give him. If you discipline him, he might leave.
It's free agency.
He goes in the portal. And I said, Muncher, I just wanted to hear it from your voice. He said, Chet, it's not for us. It's not for old men now. He said, this, and I agreed with him. I said, Michael, I can only imagine what a night. That's why Harbaugh's gone. That's why these guys, Saban, they don't want to deal with this crap. I mean, are you kidding me?
Brown.
And this is how bad it is. Do you know my neighbor? Brian Gavin, a great attorney, who's an agent, also a professional agent, Del Barton graduate with my son. They were friends growing up. Do you know what he said to me not too long ago during Christmas? He says, Coach, do you know where I'm making a killing? He said, I've signed, you know how many high school seniors I've signed? They need agents. They need agents. He said, I've signed 8 or 9 high school seniors, and I'm negotiating their contracts. Imagine what it's become.
That's what it is.
And that's why you've destroyed, in my opinion, you've destroyed college football.
Oh, college football's not, yeah.
You have destroyed, I always just used to tell people this, maybe I'm corny, maybe I'm not. It never would have dawned on me or any of my teammates. And my senior year, you're talking about Kurt Warner, first-round pick. Mike Munchak, first-round pick, Hall of Famer. Sean Farrell, first-round pick. You're talking about 13 guys that got drafted in my senior class, okay? We were talented. Not one of them would have even crossed their mind not to play in their bowl game and wear their jersey for the last time in our last Penn State game. It never would have crossed our minds. Today, who's sitting out? There's no obligation. There's no passion to your school. There's no obligation to your school. Why? Because you got guys that have played for 4 different colleges in 5 years. And you've killed that in college football.
It's crazy.
The purity of it is gone.
I played at UConn, and one of the guys I played ball with is his father was the biggest donor, and now he is, and he was he basically was the one who was kind of financially the only person to really fund a lot of like UConn's NIL stuff for football and everything. He really was responsible for these last 2 teams, like kind of like from a financial as best he could. But he told us, which was crazy. He's a great guy. He told us what was crazy was when this year obviously was probably the best year they've had in, I don't know, maybe ever, right? And the guys, a lot of the kids, okay, when Mora took the Colorado State job, a lot of the players were not going to play in the bowl game. And he told them, you're not going to get your NIL payment if you don't play, blah, blah, blah. Some of them chose not to anyway. But what was crazy was our best receiver, who is probably going to get drafted in the NFL, he goes and he kind of holds us hostage, UConn hostage, meaning like, I'm not going to play. And he says, so he agrees to pay him some money so he plays in the bowl game, right? Because he's trying to keep his team together. And which, by the way, he told me was a disaster. And so he goes, and the player goes, and he plays 1 series after he got paid.
And fakes an injury.
And just as that was it. I'm done.
Yeah, fake an injury. I got a hamstring.
And he now, and this guy's his dad was a great guy. He literally, the facilities that we have, it was after I was playing, but the guy his son played with me. We have because of his father, and now because of him, taking over his father's company when we passed. Yeah. And he said, I can't do it. I just can't. He said, I can't. He's like, it's not for him. He's, they're very, insanely wealthy, like, towards the billions. Yeah. And he said, I can't do it and not know that if I'm funding something that, he said, I became close with a lot of these players. I thought I had relationships with them. And we said to him, as much as you think you have relationships with them, there might be one or two. There might be 1 or 2 that you really do, And those guys
is over, Coach. It's done.
Yep.
You know what angers me the most?
He said it's just about the money. He said, I can't do it in the same way anymore,
Do you know what angers me the most about today? I get a kick out of this. People say to me, what angers you the most? Here's what angers me the most. Sports Illustrated had me rated the number 3 linebacker in America coming out of high school. What would I have made?
A lot, Coach. A lot.
I used to be mad because I didn't make any money playing professional football. My signing bonus was $20,000. My first contract was $50,000. I used to be mad at that. I'm really angry now. What would I have gotten to coming out of high school? I was number 3. Jack Del Rio was number 1. Bob Crable was number 2, and I was number 3. I said, what would I have gotten? How many? I would have got $1 million.
Yes, you would have been coaching for fun. You wouldn't have exactly.
There you go. So I'm really angry.
Yeah, no. It's a wild world. There's no, and like we talk about this a lot in a lot of our podcasts because it comes up in some of them at least. And the thing is that there's, once you open that Pandora's box, and once everyone has kind of realized that the NCAA really has no hold as an organization on these players, the rules don't have the effect that you think it does. And from a legal standpoint, because everyone's a smart lawyer is going to be like, hey, I'll just represent you know. Yeah. And so what ends up happening is
the game takes the back seat.
You can't put it back in.
Yeah. The game's taking the back seat. But listen,
you can't put it back in the box now. You can't.
Yeah, I got sidetracked, and just to
good.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't want to get you sidetracked, but just to finish what I was saying, I leave the NFL. We get fired at the end of our third year. We get fired. That's the NFL, stands for not for long. But anyway, whether we're right or wrong, it's what happened. So now I come home, and just a little sidelight is kind of funny. I go back. I get a call from Passaic Valley, Joey Benvenuti. Coach, what are you doing? Now, where Joey was my running back, now he runs the school. Now he's the athletic director. Ray Redden is the board attorney. Al Capello's been a teacher for all my boys grew up with kids. All those kids I coached as kids, they're all men now, and they run the district. I'm so proud of them. They all became successful.
We had Benvenuti on, right, Derek?
Yep.
Yeah. And they said to me, they said, Coach, would you come back? And I came back, and don't get me wrong, I loved it. I needed to come back to finish my pension. I worked hard. I will always work hard. I'll never cheat a kid of anything. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it's hard having been in the NFL to come back to high school football. It was hard. It's hard. It's a tough act to follow. You know what I mean? And I loved high school football. I loved it dearly. I told my son, I had a passion. I loved every moment of high school football. I loved the off season as much as I liked in season. I was young. I was strong. I worked out with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as you get older and time goes, I knew little telltales that told me it was over. I didn't want to be in the weight room every day anymore. It was tiresome. I wanted to go home. The camps, I didn't want to do them anymore. You know what I mean? I just knew. And unless I could do everything a million miles an hour, I didn't want to do them. I'm not going to half do them. So for me, I kind of knew it was time to walk away. And that's what happened. And that was my career. And at the end, I did 5 more years at PV, which I loved. The great people. PV's a second home. It was great, working with Joey and Al and all my old players, see what successes. Carmen Veneziano was a police chief, while Keith Kazmark's the mayor. All of them went. Ray Redden is a board attorney. His father was a judge. To see the successes they all had in life just made you feel good. So to end it, to say my career ending, I'll always try to tell people this. My greatest team is the team that had the most viable and productive people in life.
Yep.
My thank you is to see you become a success. And if I affected young men in a positive way, and if you're a coach and you think you're going to affect every kid the same way, you're going to be sadly mistaken. You're going to be a very sad person. I'd like to think the majority of the young men I was fortunate to coach are a little bit better people today because of what they went through in my program. And if I did that, then I did my job, because it sure as hell ain't to get rich.
No,
not going to get rich.
No.
All right, guys, I got to get rolling.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, Coach. Really,
the best, Coach.
It was awesome. Thank you so much, boys.
All right.
Anytime we can break it up for you, let us know, bud.
Hey, listen, I'd love to do it again sometime. Get a topic and we'll bandy it about.
You got it. You got it,
guys.
Enjoy. Talk soon, Coach.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
It's a man, dude.
That was quite a journey.
There's not one guy I know that has played for him that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, because he just He just has that old school type presence, right? But also like tough as hell, and you understand that like this sucks, but I know he cares.
Yep.
And eventually, like you probably hate him in the moment, but it's like it's all because of what it is. You know what I mean? Like we've all had those types of coaches, and I also like the fact that it's like, look, it was really hard coming back to high school after the pros, like, because like there's nobody that does that.
Developing those guys want you to coach them because their paycheck is impacted by how well they perform.
Their life.
That story about the special teams, Ronald is a great example of that. He invested in him. He played well. Next year he struggled. He was gone from the NFL. Like, so most of those players are trying to figure out how they can keep getting better.
How do I get the next contract?
So I get to connect the next year in a lot of cases.
Right.
Maybe in some cases the next week. Okay. Sometimes the next week, depending on where you are in the roster. So that has to be very difficult because they will soak that up and they're going to ask you questions about like, okay, hey, if I do this, will this get me better? And just my 6 years as an NFL agent, the players I work with, like when they start to see like when they would go through combine, the ones who made it to the NFL, when they went through their combine preparation, the theme of every single one of them was like they were playing a game every day, every bit of the prep. The ones who did not make it, did not get, some of them didn't get there because they didn't run well enough, but did not make it. But the ones who did, it was a common theme. Every part of this was important to them. You know what I mean? And none of only a few of those guys were starters that I worked with. Most of them were fringe guys, but they would every week. That's how they approached it when they were playing. Like they knew sometimes it might be week to week, not just year to year, but week to week. And that has to be hard.
Plus, after putting in all that time and all of those hours, and then come back to high school, and you still got to be in the weight room, and you still got to do.
Mom and dad. Can you imagine mom and dad in the modern era coming to Chet Parlavecchio and saying, "Hey, you're not playing my kid enough"? I mean, I listen. People don't like my answers, and I would say that I'm a mix of old and new.
Right.
If they don't like my answers, I mean,
could you imagine that? And then him actually have to try.
You might not even get an answer. You're not even getting an answer.
But for him too, also like trying to like, you got to play the game a little bit, right? In return, like
he's not playing the game.
Like wow, like who are you going to tell? Like, what are we doing?
And he has such a presence about him, like
because I believe he took I believe his job. Like his job getting back into it too, like not just football, was like he was the disciplinarian of the school too. You know what I mean? Like, because he had, to go back into the teaching world to finish your pension and do whatever, he needed those years.
That's
and now
true.
It's like, hey, you're the disciplinarian. So, okay.
Right. That's exactly right. And I can tell you, like, even when, when I was at Indian Hills, like, he was that at least the 2 years that the second year when I played him. I don't know if we played him the first. I think this is the second year. And he was coaching almost, I think, all sides of the ball that year.
Yes, same thing.
He was coaching all sides of the ball. And his kids were strong, and I told him it was the same kind of thing. I'm like, I know that you're going to look at their record and say this is a chance because they weren't like an undefeated team, but I'm like, we were not that big, and I'm like, you're going to see a group of kids walk in here that are going to be monsters,
Yeah, right.
So the things that you were able to kind of do craftiness to keep us in some of the games where teams did not have monsters but might have had athletes or something, it's going to be hard because they're just going to literally come right downhill and push you right off the ball. Like this is not going to be
right. If there's one thing I can tell you about this team, it's this, and I don't need to know anything else. I just know exactly what it's going to be.
That's
absolutely.
I remember,
and they're not going to stop coming at you.
I was looking at the film that week, and I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, I don't remember what their record was at the time. They were good, but they weren't like elite. But I remember, I'm like, yeah, just watch the film though. I mean, they're double teaming at the point of attack. Like I took defensively, I said, you're going to have to put every human you can get to close to the line as possible. Like, I think we played a 62 that week, or maybe even played like a 63 just in the hopes of because otherwise it'd been double teams to the end zone. You know what I'm saying? So literally double teams to the end zone. Literally. It might have been anyway. I think they just closed down one guy and created a gap. But yeah, so I mean that's always the mantra of his teams. And like I always respect about him is like if someone said to you, do you think Chet Parlavecchio played at a high level?
Mm-hmm.
There's no one that would say that he did not, like they didn't think he did, because he carries himself as a guy who played at a very, very high level. And it's not, even though he obviously is personable to talk to you, but it's not something that like you walk in a room and be like, that guy played at a high level. You know what I'm saying? Because he carries himself that way. He respects himself that way. Like it's one of the things that like you try to teach young players, like carrying yourself. To me, like I'll know you're a good player, okay, not because you tell me that you're a good player,
right?
But I'll know who the good players are by how they start to walk around and
how they carry themselves, how they act when they don't think I'm watching,
right? And
shit, they like I always love it when I go, say you go to a basketball game and your players are there. How do they interact? Do they just put their head down and walk by you? Do they say what's up to you? Is it a clown show or is it a mature aspect? Or how do they act? Like, what do they do? You know what I mean? Like that type, some of those types of things when you see them outside of, the sport that you coach them in or in the weight room, like how do they interact? How do they act with others? Right? Like all of those things, I think, is where you see guys that are next level players or guys that are just whatever, right? Like you can tell a lot about that stuff.
And the shame is in today's part where there's a lot of really great players that are playing at a high level who decide not to carry themselves that way.
Right.
Like
because they want to be cool or they want to have this other type of whatever
I
thing.
think it's
or,
a shame.
It's just a lot. It's
like to me, like I just think, one of my best friends in high school, used to always say, he's like, oh, when you come in the room, he's like, here he comes, his head's so big, right? And I always took that, by the way, as a compliment, because you know what? I said, geez, when I come in a room, everybody knows it. Like that's what it told me. Okay. When I came into a room in class, everybody knew I was there and everybody was like, this guy believes he's something. I never had to say anything. Okay. I mean, I believed in myself, as did you, you know what I mean? But other people knew that I believed in myself. And I think that as far as players go, like you see it still with quarterbacks, I think, because that position requires it. That position requires you because you deal with so much. You're going to have to, if you're going to be good at that position, you're going to have to be able to do it. But I always think it's a shame when I see I'm like, that kid's like a great player. Why does he act like that?
Yep. Or now it deters from it, right? And then it's really hard to get that image out of your head, right? Irregardless, it's just kind of like to circle back. Coach talked about like how your program looks in the little things that you do, right? And that just tucking your shirt in, or it just all of those little things factor into the big picture. And for the most part, and so much more now where the ability to get a scholarship is splitting hairs and it's literally close of like, hey, we're going to take this guy. We're not going to take this guy. Like that could be some little things like that could be the differentiator between you getting a ride and you not getting a ride, or you just getting an opportunity to get in front of somebody and give yourself a chance, right? Like that's really tough.
Taught from your parents, by the way, I think. So,
it's a big piece.
Well, most of the time, you know, I mean, there are exceptional.
Of course, there's always exceptions.
I hate when people point to the exceptions on that. Like for me, like LeBron James is kind of an exception on that. He had, you know, rough parenting situation, became a respectable person.
But I think he was just surrounded by so many.
He was
like,
surrounded by
like the
people.
coaches and the people that told him like, you got to do it this way. Make sure you. He was also, you know, like that coach literally took that middle school group to high school and you kind of babysat them all.
I saw the movie. The movie was great.
Yeah, the movie was great. Absolutely, very eye opening. But that's a rarity where
that is a rarity.
Just so happen that you have a high level player like that gets what is needed. Right, on that level and that scale.
The norm is up. Could be both. Hopefully, it's both. But a parent being able to like teach. I'm seeing like how at each age, you know, I actually had to point out to my own son. I said, "Listen, like, you know, when he gets upset about something, he said you got to stop focusing on what the result is."
Yeah,
I said, I'm going to give you an example of someone you know that only focuses on the result, and that's an adult. And see how they carry themselves. Do you think that person carries himself the right way? He's only worried about results. And he said, no. I said, do you want to be that person? He says, no. It's amazing how he said, you know, because he doesn't understand what the process means. I said, let me explain. Like, this is what process means. This means you keep, you know, in basketball, for example, you keep shooting, dude. Don't worry about if it goes in. Okay. Eventually you want. But you keep shooting and shooting with the right technique and taking the reps on it and stop worrying about how many go in. Worry about shooting and shooting and shooting and trying to do it the right form and doing it the right way.
And then it'll happen.
And then it'll happen. But if you worry about how many do go in, and I get it, there's a point when you do. There is a point where obviously
that's natural.
You know, I understand that you're worried about how many go in. But what happens is if you worry about when you miss it and then you get frustrated, you're going to miss the next 10 because you're thinking about the result instead of what helps me make the shot, right? Setting my feet properly, following through with my hand, right? Making sure that you're facing the basket, right? These are tiny little things that if one of them are off, you're missing the shot, okay? But if you're focused on how many you make, you start to forget about those things in the process. That has to become automatic before you can even begin to worry about how many of them are going in. And a lot of kids now are putting the cart before the horse, and we talk about it with Instagram. How cool do I look doing my off the line release? And I mean, people hate when I say this. I'm like, let me in my prime line up over you in the line on the line and do that stuff and see what happens. Because I went to NFL those combine things, okay? And I tested in all those things. And I remember my favorite thing, because I was taught really well how to play man-to-man for a linebacker. Vernon Hart's a great coach. And you had to be able to play man-to-man on a tight end. Like, that was one of the first things he taught you. Like, it was crazy. But he taught you how to play it. Like, he taught you how to shoot the hip. And taught you how to get your hands on. And how to move your feet at the same time. Because he's like, you're going to have to play it in this defense. And I remember, like, dudes would do shit at the line, and I just take them right off. And I remember watching, like, the CFL coaches and be like, holy shit. Like, because you do that stuff in the line, I'm just looking right at the middle of you, and that shit ain't moving. And I'm just taking my hands, and I'm keeping them right to where the middle of you are. And you can dance all you want, and I'm putting it right through your freaking chest, and you're going right up. I don't care how big you were. It didn't matter. There were some gigantic guys. I remember this back in the day. And I remember the best tight end I played with was the guy I played against in practice. He played in the NFL for 3 years, one of my good friends. And one of the things that I learned was he was hard because he was not only was he quick, but he was physical and he was big. He was 250 pounds and he was big. And it was like I couldn't outstrength him all the time. I couldn't always outquick him because he was fast. And his release was like a quick, like boom, boom, like and up the field. So if you tried to like outmuscle him or anything, But these guys who do 90, 15 dances at the line, like a great DB, that's it, dude. Why do you think these guys are not at the next level in the NFL? Because they're doing those things, because the guy who lines up over them, who is also 5'10", but actually quicker, takes him and knocks him into the third row with that stupid dancing. Okay. And it's one of these things that, like, when you see Chet talk about it, it brings it right back in perspective. There are things about the new way we do things that are great. Absolutely great. I 100% agree with what the Indiana coach is talking about with efficiency and everything like that. And Chet, if you noticed, was very innovative in his own way. The Nautilus stuff for his time. Very, he doesn't think of himself that way, you know what I'm saying? But he did things. Just getting guys in a weight room was
in a losing from a team that has a losing, like, non-existent type of culture.
And back then, people did not all go in the weight room all the time, because I played obviously in that era, right? They did not all go in the weight room at the time. Like me working out, I always said, was a differentiator. Like, that is not necessarily a differentiator now. Now doing more than that is a differentiator, or figuring out what can make you even better is a differentiator. But back then when I played, literally lifting all the time and running was a differentiator. Like, it made you a better player. He understood that in the late 80s and early 90s. And so he wasn't in, like, he was an innovator. Like his stuff that he was doing with special teams, which at the time came from college, which then brought to high school, was an innovation, because at high school they're always behind what's going on at at higher levels, right? So him doing that, I always thought about it, like, I kept my special teams playbook forever because I was the up back.
Always. And
people are like, oh, how why are all those fakes are so innovative? I'm like, yeah, we did them in 93. And I happened to be the up back, you know what I'm saying? But we were that was part of our fakes repertoire. Like, and people are like, wow, because high school was behind. There's certain things that high school now innovates that is ahead, but back then high school was behind. You know what I'm saying? It was behind what you're doing. And so it's really, really interesting to talk to him. Like, the man has a presence about himself. Like, I also love what he says about, like, everybody's accountable. Like, I give you the opportunity. You have to show me that you can do something with that opportunity. A lot of young coaches don't understand that. They just expect you, oh, I did this for a year. I was a running backs coach this year. Now I should be the offensive coordinator, right? Like, or, they think that it's an automatic progression. That's the word. They think it's an automatic progression. It's not an automatic progression. And
nope.
And part of it is they've been taught that is the case.
Correct.
A lot of it is because you don't have as many guys wanting to take assistant jobs anymore. You are desperate as a head coach to find guys. There's no doubt. All I can do is go, I get my email every week from what's his name from who used to be at Wayne Hills, is now at East Orange. Jeff, who runs AFCA? New Jersey AFCA.
John Jacobs.
John Jacobs. I get it, and I it's amazing the number of guys that need assistant coaches. It's
endless.
This is just the beginning, by the way. So, but it's amazing. It's amazing because it is hard. Like, it is.
And it
hard.
used to be that was attached to a teaching job, or there was something to it. Like, that's not the case anymore. You know what I mean? Because that stuff has kind of gone away. That guys the teaching field is not a thing. You know what I mean? Or it really was kind of the way you did how it was. But that stuff's, like.
And getting older guys on board, right? Because who might be available, actually, right?
Right. They're probably more of the ones that have the time that are, either recently retired or whatever, or they're looking, it's just.
Their kids are out of the house now, right? They might not even be that old. They might be in their 40s, but they want to make sure that they go with a guy that they know is going to coach. That's going
to It's also used to be like you knew the guy that was hiring you, right? Or you had some type of network or connection to him. Now it's like you got to be willing to take it on a flyer and hope that that guy works out, or you know what I mean? Like you're really vested in it, and it's just because it's not, you're desperate to fill positions.
You're desperate to fill positions. It's very.
How much? Really? How much? Like
I don't envy. Yes, they all say how much. I don't even envy. I don't envy how tough it is for head coaches, because it is a difficult process, and and public school, it's even more difficult. I really think that, like, when because we've talked to so many of these guys from South Carolina, Georgia, obviously we know about Texas, Alabama has it too. New Jersey eventually, I understand the problem is they try to make it equal for all the sports, and I don't know that's South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, they just said, hey, listen, it's not equal for all sports, and we're going to try and give everybody opportunities. But if we're going to have football be successful, we need to have more of these guys have a full-time opportunity within the school system. But it doesn't have to look like the way it used to look like, right? Like,
correct.
Like who we had on, he's a strength and conditioning coach. He teaches like basically like a sports class, essentially. That's what his workload is. And then he coaches a position or a coordinator on our team. Maybe he coaches another sport. That's how you make it a full-time gig for the guy. You got to do that. Okay. Like if you came to me, Middletown South came to me and said, Dave, you know what? This never happened, by the way, in New Jersey. But they said, hey, Dave, you know what? We're going to have you coach track. We're going to have you coach football as an assistant. We're going to have you be in a weight room. We're going to have you teach, teach a class, one class a day. And then we're going to have you, at lunchtime, hang out here and make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And that's going to be a full-time salary for you. Okay. I would do it in a second, because it now you've created a situation. And if you could do that with 4 or 5 of your football coaches, now you have to fill less spots, right?
Yep.
So now you look, those states still have guys that are part-time guys, but the main 4 or 5 guys are filled in that way. Some of them might teach multiple classes, some of them, but like you figure out how to fill it out for them instead of thinking, okay, I need this offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, and he's just going to coach football, okay? Or maybe he coaches another sport too as an assistant, and think that he's going to want to stay there for more than a couple of years. It's not going to happen. He's not going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be there for a couple of years. Yes, you get someone in some sort of life situation where it doesn't matter for them, they can do it. But for most guys, that's very, very difficult to have happen for long term. So they're going to go to the next gig, right? And they're going to go to the next gig, and no one's ever going to be fully satisfied. Whereas you could do that, and you can't tell me you can't do that. You cannot tell me that in most of these public schools, the amount of money that we waste on nonsense, they can't figure out ways to do that. And you end up getting your other sports filled up too. So now that football coach, you're coaching girls flag, right? Okay, you're coaching football. You're there at the lunchtime. You're there in the weight room. You're there as an assistant. Maybe you're the freshman basketball coach. Okay, they don't overload you, so you're stuck all day long there. But you're doing something that portrays a full-time gig for them, right? You're I don't know. You're the security person but it's not a stipend for each thing. That's the thing you have to get away from. You're getting paid a full-time salary, and this is all of your roles within the school. These are all of your roles. And now you're like, yes, that makes it, and you can get tenure with it. Yes, I'll do it. Of course you're going to do it. Of course someone's going to do it, right? And now they're not doing 50 million different things, dude. Now they don't have to go and work as a trainer if they don't want to. They don't have to go and spend 5 hours every night training more kids because they can't make enough in what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I think that that's what has to happen. I think that those states have done a great job of that. Parochials do a better job with that, obviously. But public school, you know, it's going to be a haves and have-nots unless they figure that out. You like people are like, oh, how come the wealthy schools are so good at football? Resources. It's simple. It's simple.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
Over time, they're going to have more resources, more people willing to do things for them. And over time, even if those players may not be quite as fast or as, athletic, they're going to have a million of those kids all training, all developing all the time. They're going to be better as a team. It's not that an individual can't be better.
Of course.
But as a team, they're going to be better. And that's, I think the administrators that get that, you see these places, it's like if you were to go across the board, outside of the places that are able to recruit players, which the Philly area schools are able to do a little bit more of that, like because you could go from here, open enrollment type thing. You're going to see more and more programs that have more of the resources be more successful.
It's just how it's going to work.
That's how it's going to work. Will they still have Division I players? It's places that don't have as much resources? Sure, because you could have great individuals anywhere. But it's going to be hard to get coach. I mean, the Patterson schools, every year there's a new head coaching position at either Kennedy or Eastside. Every year. Every single year. Please figure out a way to make it a better situation for that so the coaches can stay longer, so they can have success, so those kids can then benefit from that, right? They don't benefit from a new coach every single year. They do not benefit from that. And you have less and less players play football. And then they wonder, why do the kids play on this all-star team and go to the parochials? Well, because they don't see the opportunity at their public school,
Right.
and that is what's going to happen. And that becomes nobody's fault. And then you go and you see like public schools that have resources and they're going to have success. They're going to have success, and they're probably going to have better administrators because they probably pay more and they could filter through more. When was the last time Elizabeth won a state championship? In 2006, when Chet Parlavecchio was there. Do they still have athletes walking around everywhere? Absolutely they do.
Right.
Absolutely they do. It's 5,000.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, it's 5,000 people in the school. Of course there's going to be athletes there. Now you might still be able to put together a basketball team because there's less players involved. But football is going to be hard if you're not able to have a full commitment to bettering the overall situation. And I just think that's what's going to happen. And eventually they made Chet's life hard at Elizabeth, which is the story that they don't tell you, and he was winning and he was doing all these things. And what he was saying was 100% true. That's exactly what was going on at the time. It's exactly what was, and he did an amazing job. And rallied him in the right situation. That's why they won. And since then, they've had they might have had a good year here or there, but they've had a very difficult time doing it.
Hasn't been sustainable.
Fiore to try and do it. They brought in Fiore to try to, but it's very, 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 in spite of is a very hard way to long-term succeed. I have to say, like, listening to Chet's career, and I was kind of, I knew of his career, but I was kind of like really going through ChatGPT too at the same time because I wanted to see, like, was he in really like as many bad situations as I thought he was? He really was. He was in a lot. And
I'm willing to take those on and just full steam ahead.
Yeah, like that's why I say he really believes in his capabilities, because he was able to turn it around in most of the cases. Clifton used to be, I don't know how it is now. Clifton went through that phase where they were they were the best football program back in the old days. It was like Clifton and Garfield, right? Best programs in New Jersey. And then Garfield eventually very quickly fell by the wayside. Then Clifton really took that over because they're right next to each other. I don't know if you know, but they're right next to each other.
Yep.
Clifton took that over, became the best program in New Jersey for a very, very long time, or one of the best. And then they went through that time in like the 80s and 90s where they became a graveyard of great football coaches, literally all the way through like to the 2000s, where great coaches would come in, get ran out. It's a very interesting story how he told that story. And they would come in, they would do great things or start to do good things, get run out. Like after Chet was Ron Anello was there, before him. If you look up the names of all the coaches that have been there, it's crazy. It really is crazy, because Clifton was like when I was growing up, really, when I was really young, they were still known as like the power, but that changed very quickly, very, very quickly. By the time I got to high school, it was no longer the case, that Clifton was once good. But dude, that was amazing. First of all, the other thing that was amazing, and I'll let you go, I couldn't believe that he was able to go that long and tell.
No doubt. He could keep going.
I was actually almost dumbfounded by how he was able to continuously tell that story all the way through from beginning to end. That was
Eddie.
Find that amazing? I thought that was amazing. And we keep it on task. Every time we asked the question, he went right back to where he was. Amazingly, right back to the exact point. I thought that was amazing.
Look, I was fortunate enough to be around some of the guys that were coached by him, right? And you get the lore of what it is and whatnot. And then to be on a level, like to have a relationship and just a great dude, you know what I mean? Like always willing to help in any way or whatever, knows exactly who he is, what he is, not too much of like he is what he is, man. Like he is upfront, honest, like tell you his faults in the fact of whatever, but I think it's just a really good like perspective on like how the game's changed or what he did, kind of his whatever. But like at the end of it, like, I mean, he started the whole thing with like, look, football is football. That's what it's always going to be, irregardless of all the other stuff. But, even like, hey, this game's passed us by. We can't play this college game anymore of what we are. Like it's not going to work no matter what we do. You know what I mean? Like those types of things. But yeah, dude, I was really juiced. And it was funny because when I signed on, I got on and I'm like just waiting, and you see it, like he pops up and his wife's in there, like doing all his stuff, right? Because I had messaged Ben Venuti about like, hey, you think coach is going to be able to get on this whole thing? And he's like, dude, don't worry. His wife will take care of it. She's his IT guy. Like she's his tech guy. And it'll be perfect. And he's like, buddy, without her, I got no idea. He's like, this is one of those last things. He goes, my guy in the NFL said, hey, I'm sick of calling people to get you. Like, you know what I mean? So at some point you're going to have to learn how to work the phone. He goes, I still haven't learned how to work it, but it's, so it's cool. I'm glad it worked out. It was awesome. So yeah, man, he was good.
He was really, really good. That was a gem of a find. And I think, it's one of these things that after this episode is up for a little while, like you're going to see coaches going to watch this episode. Like, because you know how it goes, like through people's algorithm on YouTube, you know what I mean? Like, and it'll come up. I'll actually locate this too. I'll put a location on it for New Jersey, and that way.
Oh yeah, like there'll be so many people.
Yeah, it's and
with his son doing a really good job at New Providence right now, like,
no doubt.
Cool.
No doubt. It's I mean, when he said Verducci, I was like, oh my God.
You're like, I can't believe these names.
Yeah, because Frank Verducci, who used to coach at UConn for a little while, was at Nebraska when Rule first went there. I think he might have retired now. I feel like that's Tony Verducci's that's either the father of Frank Verducci. It must be the father of Frank Verducci. Or his brother is because he said the other Frank Verducci was the coach so that must be, I'm trying to think if that's actually Frank or Frank is the son. But Frank Verducci, who coached at all these different places in the NFL and everything, probably is in his late 60s. So he must be Chet's age. So he must be the son. So he must be the son of either Tony or Frank. And
right.
Who coached all over in college and all that kind of stuff. But it's so when the names he was saying, like, it's amazing. Anyway, It really is amazing. Like you're like, wow, I remember that name. I hear these names. I'm like, I remember that name. I remember that name. I remember that name. I'm like, oh wow, he was there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
Jermaine Johnson. I'm like, oh, that makes sense now why he wanted to go
Like,
back.
oh, he's been a head coach at like 4 different places at this point, right? And he's still going.
Well, he went back to his alma mater, right? That's why he wanted to go back.
He's there, and he'll probably be at Bloomfield until Carter decides to finally like say later. So
very cool.
Good stuff, man.
All right, man.
Awesome.
Tomorrow, nothing.
No, because I have the New Jersey Football Coaches Association clinic.
Oh, at West Orange. So
no, this is in Edison.
Oh, what's at West Orange? Aaron?
That's the New Jersey Minority Football Coaches Association clinic.
So which one is sold out then? That they said was sold out.
The New Jersey Football Coaches Association clinic tomorrow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that means it's easily over 300. They do it at Pines Manor in Edison. It's a nice spot. Shiano's the keynote, but like Ryan Cardi will be there from UDEL. There's some good speakers. But I think it's an easy peasy one for these guys, especially it's all New Jersey guys, you know what I mean? So it's the one thing that we can do.
Who are the
speakers? So it should be good. Like I said, they have Shiano's the keynote. Cardi is gonna be there. He's speaking. Which is nice because both of his brothers are head coaches. Valone from Rutgers, the tight ends coach. Defensive line coach from Rutgers. Lou DiZerenzio, who we had on from Monmouth, the DC linebackers coach, is speaking. Trey Bell's coming up. Who else we got? The Yale OC, he's coming in. Princeton receivers coach Flynn will be there. Carnegie Mellon head coach is going to be there. So I think they do just enough. You know what I mean? Like they don't bombard you with like, the Glacier where it's like 5 different rooms. Morning, evening. Yeah. Right. So it's 3 rooms. It's, 2 in the morning, 1 after, and then 1, it's 2 in the morning and then 2 after lunch, which I think is perfect. So, guys or whatever, and they're done by, 2:30. So it's literally a school day.
Very cool. We'll enjoy it. I'm sure you'll have a great time.
Oh, it should be interesting. Always is.
I'm sure. I'm sure it'll be
everybody bitching about something that nothing could do.
There's nothing to do about it. That should be good. Well, I'm sure you'll learn a lot. Rutgers is at a crossroads. You see all the money they're losing?
Oh my God, dude, so much money.
I don't know what they do. I don't know how they get that solved. But that's crazy. It's all over the news. Crazy. I wonder how it affects his program. If it does.
Right.
I don't know if it does or it doesn't. Actually, he might address that as a keynote. He might address some of those things.
Maybe. And I'm sure, look, he doesn't usually do a Q&A, but you know what I mean? Like maybe somebody will fire away at him.
No, he just usually gives a presentation. I was there.
Yeah, last year he did one. He was there and he did it on like vertical alignment, which was cool.
You mean everybody being on the same page all the way through?
Yeah.
I remember when he first came back to. You remember when he spoke and when he first came back? Was that Glacier? I don't remember. 2021 maybe was it when he first came back or 20? I think we were both there. Or maybe I don't know. I saw him. Well, Albrecht was still the coach at Vienna, or just took over at Vienna at that point. But yeah, I remember Shiano, like how excited he was to be back. I would actually love to watch his presentation 5 years later. I'm just curious if things have changed because of NIL for him and transfer portal. If he's like thinking how long he's going to do it. That's what I wonder. You know what I mean? Because he has to really be behind the gun NIL wise.
Oof, yeah. No doubt, dude. No doubt.
It has to be hard. It's hard to get people. The thing that NIL basically relies on is your love for that university and the fact that you identify with that program. So if you're a billionaire, you identify with Texas Tech so much that you're like, I want to help it. And I think Rutgers has like an identity issue with its own alumni, even, you know what I mean? Like, because, the name is part of it, I think, but, they have an identity issue. Like, I almost think that if Montclair State was Division I, it could raise more money than Rutgers.
I think the
There's more an identity.
Yeah. Well, here's what it was. There's more of an identity, but there's also like you wouldn't get such like the $1.2 billion whatever, or you would get like 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here from everybody that's a cop and a teacher. That would, you know what I mean? Just give back, like in a way, like so the little pieces would create a lot. You know what I'm saying?
You probably have some billionaire in there you don't know about, but I'm sure.
Well, I mean, some of these some guys that you look are like alum like that, like hiding in the weeds that you have no clue.
Yeah.
I mean, look, but there's also like, it's like, I don't know. It's weird, dude. It's different.
Yeah. I mean, because look how Montclair State.
And I just think it's such a big deal. Like, because Rutgers was so hell bent on like joining the Big Ten is going to take us to whatever, because we'll get this money and whatever. And it's only gone backwards.
No, it's gone backwards. See, I feel like that's what a part of the issue is for Rutgers is the identity. See, we're like where I went to school, because basketball is so good.
Even Monmouth almost has more of an identity.
They probably have. I mean, obviously Rutgers probably has more billionaires, but Monmouth has more of an identity. You're right. Like it just that it didn't play really big time football for a long time, but they definitely have more of an identity as far as who they are.
Did you see the other, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is some unfortunate news. I don't know if you caught it because it kind of broke right before we started. Greg Olson's older brother, Christian Olson, passed away.
What?
Yeah, he had
quarterback, right? The quarterback?
Yeah. He's been fighting a disease, glioblastoma, maybe it is, or something. I might be wrong, which is brutal. But 43 years old, dude.
Oh my God. What?
Brutal. Yeah, Greg announced it this morning on his social media. Brutal.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Wow. It's crazy. There's as you get older, this the hardest thing about getting older.
Yes.
Is that like, I mean, I just heard another one of my friends, something just happened. 2 of them actually in the last 2 days.
Glioblastoma.
I admire my parents on that. They kind of always handled this. I really never knew these things. These things are more of a shock to me, because as you get older and people are dying around you.
Yeah. My parents were really good at shielding some of that stuff too, but look, it came to a point where ultimately like dude, you start to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I think the first time I really remember it was like when my great grandmother at like 90 something, and it was like maybe I was like 5th or 6th grade was like the first experience of like this stuff happens. You know what I mean? Like, you got to just understand like kind of what it is and whatever. And then, obviously my situation with losing my cousin at such a young age, right? Like now it's like, you're almost callous to the empathy of what it is. Like when someone's like, I lost my grandmother, you're like, yeah, well, how old was she? You know what I mean? So, but I mean, look, it's brutal. Like you just see, it just happens all the time. It's just crazy, man.
Wow. It's shocking. It's shocking. All
right, man. Well, enjoy. We'll talk. Oh, yeah. We'll talk. Should be interesting.
They serving food there?
Breakfast and lunch, buddy. They 2 for it. Yeah, it's a nice spot. They did it there last year. I know they had bounced around a couple of years. There's like one year they did it at what was that place in Hillsboro that we did some stuff and ran a 7-on-7. We did it at Rutgers. I remember they did it at Rutgers one year, and there was a lot of like the Temple head coach was there, and then whatever. And then I think Greg kind of got a little like, hey, I don't want these other guys on campus, right? Like, You know what I mean? So I know
That
he
makes
kind
sense.
of has, you know, I get it. I 100% get that, you know, but I guess he's not threatened by Delaware. So, you know, like you don't see Nunzio on it anymore, you know?
Right.
You don't see Fran Brown coming down, having a conversation of like, hey guys.
No.
And look, guys go one way or another with Greg. It's, you know, every high school coach in New Jersey thinks their best players should be offered by Rutgers, and that just ain't the case. So I think there's a little bit of that. Even though I think he does a lot.
I don't hear as much in the recruiting trail about Rutgers as I do with other schools. And I don't know if that's on purpose, on accident. You know, I think the Star Ledger.
You ready for this one too? You're really going to drop it, not to totally cut you off, but you ready to like, really to like. So Colombo is out at Immaculata.
Wait, what? We just had him on last week.
They're hiring Dallas Whitaker.
I don't know who that is. Dallas Whitaker from Somerville? Dallas? Yep. He's been gone from.
Yep.
Wait, what? Dallas Whitaker.
It literally just broke. Like it literally just like Central. Here, I'll tell you where I read it. And obviously, you know me, I don't give a shit. So I just messaged him right away and was like, what's the deal?
What did he say?
I'll wait for that response. Central New Jersey Sports or whatever on Insta is where I saw it. He was
a Somerville coach for a few years, I thought.
Correct. Yes. What is it? CJ Sports Radio. That's where I saw it drop.
He hasn't.
Immaculata to name Dallas Whitaker, Spartans' new coach. Read the full story.
He hasn't coached. He stepped down in COVID 2021. I thought so.
Yep. So.
Wow, and he was a young guy, Dallas, as I thought. At the time, he was at least. I don't know how old he is now.
I don't know, man.
We
literally just had him on, like literally a week ago, maybe. Like it's like she's like
I had no inkling. Did you have an inkling? I had no inkling.
Not. I don't think Coach Colombo had an inkling. Like, I don't think this was one of those. I think this was like, hey, why don't we come in for a meeting of like, okay, what do we got going on? And then it was like, boom.
We're letting you go and we're hiring this guy. You know, that's how
they fucking do it.
That's kind of how Dallas got in Somerville originally. He must know people over there.
I was just gonna say, like, guys like that. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to. You know what I mean? But because I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I don't know him. I don't know anybody. But you just feel for a guy like, oh shit, like
that's crazy. Like we were just on with him. There wasn't anything like I'm dealing with.
Is Jeff Vanderbeek the money guy?
Yes, he's the Devils owner. That's who got him in at Somerville.
Well, guess what, buddy? Like, guess who's the new football program director at Immaculata?
Right, they're together. Yeah.
Well, this should be fun.
That means they're pouring money into it.
Okay.
I guess they'll have a new stadium.
All right, man.
Isn't that wild how sports is?
Sports. You go from something. It's just crazy.
And what did he win last year? 9 games?
I think they just. Yeah, it says it in the article that I think that they're coming off a 9-win season with a lot of people returning. Dirty world, buddy.
Okay, guess how? You know, it's funny. Things that, as a person who was, and I'll leave it with this. I was obviously not a teacher, right? So I would a lot of times have to deal with some things that would happen because of that. And that was a different kind of era. That era, because so much less of teachers are either coaches or what I used to have to deal with is now every coach deals with all the time. Unless you happen to be, there are some guys that are in a spot, but even when you're successful, they deal with it.
And he went to Immaculata too.
Who did?
Whitaker.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's like,
dude.
You know what that always reminds me of my favorite and probably yours.
40. Palumbo was 43 and 35 over 8 seasons. He had one sub 500 campaign after an 0-7 COVID season, which tossed it out the window.
Right.
His best seasons were the last 2. 8-2 and 9-3.
It's interesting. That's very, very interesting situation. Shocking, actually. Really, really shocking.
Right. Had none. Whatever. It just makes you like count your lucky stars, buddy. Because look, it was the same thing when we were at SJV, bro.
Derek, everything trickles down. Okay. There are things that trickle up, like, someone might run up offensive system that people at the college level think we should have this. But as far as philosophy, NFL pushes down to college pushes down to us. College used to be a situation where people looked at it as an opportunity to better yourself for life. Okay.
Right.
Not only about playing maybe at the NFL or something. And when that goes away, and people can say whatever they want, Division I, that has gone away. It trickles down to Division III, okay, whether you want it to or not. It trickles down from there to high school. So it just trickles all the way down. Division III coaches, most of them are probably taking high school kids, but they still have to deal with the trickle-down effect. Everyone has to deal with that trickle-down effect. And the NIL, when he was saying that his best money is it tells me I must be a moron in life. I guess I should be doing NIL stuff.
Apparently,
me and you should just parlay this.
You should, if you just renew your agent shit and fucking take every high school kid and go from there.
To renew it. These guys aren't even
right, because it doesn't even you don't need the official shit. I don't know, bro.
I think the fact that I put so many guys in the NFL already probably would immediately get me a lot of NIL clients. So,
dude, they went with this guy because what's his name has money and he's going to save the school.
Oh, that makes sense. That's probably
works.
what it is. The school is probably, I forgot about that. The Immaculata is a small school. That's exactly what's going on. It's more than just the football's part of it. It's also they need money.
Of course. Because
you know what happened? This is a whole different podcast, but this is my 2 cents on Catholic school situation. Okay. There are the haves in Catholic school and the have-nots. Okay. So, my son goes to what I would call a have Catholic school, right? St. Leo's.
And then the other ones are just trying to constantly get to where it is. You know Derek, what I mean? They're trying to get to that standard, dude.
When we sit there if you went to our basketball game,
right? You said that you're like, and you're okay. You're okay. You know what I mean? You're not a world. No offense. You're not a world beater. You're not this, whatever. But dude, you can hang with it. But then there are people that you look at that table and you're like, whoa.
Well, the bigger thing is this. When I watch the basketball game, okay, 15 kids on his team. All right. They're like an army when they warm up. They're literally an army. Like Troy's like, we don't have to really shoot before, in the garage before my game. We're gonna warm up for 30 minutes before he's like, I'll have 1 million shots before the game goes. Right. So, which there's no other basketball game. We always shoot a little bit before. That's the only one. He's like, I don't want to get tired. That's how much they warm up. Right. But they look like an army, which is kind of cool. What you see is basically that's how the school is in a certain situation with the people that they have clientele wise, that those kids are in a really structured situation. They have coaches who are not debt parents. Okay, they're actually they have kids in the school, but they don't coach their kid. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Of course.
Or they had kids in the school 20 years ago. You know what I mean? But and then you. Oh, I lost them. Those. Finish my thought.